The Protector Chapter 261. It dawned on him that he was a technical consultant for the Defense Research and Development Center. He was still married to Sasha. What she was doing was sabotaging a military marriage. Suddenly he understood why Levi would not let him get a divorce. So this was the reason. Yet, everything was legal as well as reasonable. It was Sasha who was unfaithful to their marriage, was it not? They had also been dishonest and leaked the core technology, had they not? They deserved to face the consequences of their wrongdoing. After regaining his composure, Isaiah came to the restaurant they had agreed upon. What surprised him was that Sasha was not alone. Tom and Charlie were also there. Seeing Isaiah limping in, Tom sneered, "Didn't I say that this cripple would hobble over as soon as he hears Sasha's voice? Is this a dud or a man? He knows full well that his wife is sleeping around, yet he still comes the moment she calls. What a loser!" Charlie sneered. Sasha kissed Charlie on the cheek. She laughed and said, "Why don't you guys say it's because I am irresistible? Haha, that goes without saying." On purpose, Charlie grabbed Sasha right before Isaiah's eyes. Isaiah was shocked again. He came to a sudden realization that this slut was not only cheating on him with Tom but was also having an affair with Charlie. "I have become a cuckold by the hands of my apprentices. How adulterous is this woman in her private life? She's no different than a whore." Isaiah suppressed his raging emotions and sat down in front of the three of them. "You said you need to see me, right? What is it about?" Isaiah asked coldly. "Since you're here, I'll be frank with you. Tell me what is going on in Morris Group. Tell me everything." Sasha did not even attempt to make some small talk. She went straight to the point. Isaiah sneered, "Why would I tell you? Haha, after being with Morris Group for a few days, you think you've grown strong? If you still love Sasha, tell us everything now." Tom smirked. Sasha put on a piteous look, beguiling him, "Isaiah, will you keep things from me? If you don't tell me, I'll get into trouble." "No way. These are company secrets which I cannot reveal to you. You have tricked me before but I won't fall for your tricks again." Isaiah was firm, unlike before. However, Sasha and the two adulterers merely smiled. Evidently, they had already thought of a way to handle Isaiah's determination. "You won't tell us? Don't force us to make you do it," Charlie said threateningly. "Are you going to beat me up?" Isaiah knew he had Levi backing him, so he was not the least afraid. "You think we won't beat you? Let me tell you this. 6 years ago, I sent some men to break your leg. At that time, I was already sleeping with your wife." Tom laughed as he said this. Boom! The news hit Isaiah like a bolt of thunder. "Remember the 40 million in your account? We're the ones that took it. It was not used to fill the public funds," Charlie said with a sneer. Isaiah clenched his fists so tight that his veins popped out. Sasha laughed and said, "Isaiah, if you don't tell me what's Morris Group planning, I'll shame you in public." "Hey? What do you mean?" Isaiah asked in puzzlement. "Isn't your dignity the most important thing to you all this while? If you don't tell me, I'll tell the crowd here that you are my husband. Then, I will kiss these two men." Sasha cackled. Her plan was to do something so immoral in public before her husband's very eyes. This was every man's worst insult. There have been men who had jumped off tall buildings when they were insulted by their wives in this way. Those were men like Isaiah who valued their pride above all else. They could never accept the disgrace their wives brought to them. The Protector Chapter 262. Sasha knew Isaiah's character and his temperament. She knew that he valued his pride and would never allow that to happen. So she attacked his weak point. You slut! As expected, Isaiah was provoked. He nearly jumped to his feet, clenched his fists and shouted in anger. If everyone knew his wife was unfaithful and acted shamelessly right in front of him, he would not be able to control himself. He just could not accept this. Well? Aren't you telling us? Seeing Isaiah struggling with himself, Sasha felt untold pleasure. She could abuse Isaiah any time she wished. Just when Isaiah was struggling within, Levi's voice came through the hidden earpiece in his ear, "Let her do it. Isn't that exactly the evidence we need?" Levi had been watching the whole scene unfold before him through remote cameras. Levi's words brought Isaiah to his senses. That's right. Aren't I here to gather evidence? What Sasha is threatening to do is exactly the evidence I need. Isaiah shot daggers at her and spat angrily, "You dare to do it? Why won't I dare?" Sasha laughed. She stood up and spoke to the people around her, "Everyone, look this way." The crowd did not know what was going on, but they looked anyway. Sasha was observing Isaiah all the while. Though Isaiah was angry, he did not try to stop her. When she saw him unmoving, she knew she had to up her game. "Everyone look here. This is my husband, a cripple. And now he's pushing me to other men." Sasha shouted loudly. Everyone looked towards Isaiah. Isaiah spoke angrily, "You are the one who has been unfaithful. Why do you say I'm pushing you to them?" Seeing how stubborn Isaiah was, Charlie stood up, sneering, "That's right. Your wife has been cheating on you." Tom laughed in a perverted way, "Both of us have been sleeping with your wife for 6 years. You're just a cripple. You can't do anything. We have been taking care of your wife. What can you do about it?" They felt no shame at all, going public. He knew with the Northampton Chamber of Commerce backing them, this would not be reported in the news. That was the reason why he was so reckless in order to force Isaiah to speak out. Sasha then kissed Tom and Charlie on their faces. She laughed and said, "You cripple, I have been cheating on you. But what can you do about it?" As Sasha and the two men flaunt their immoral acts in public, Isaiah felt his last shred of dignity left him. Isaiah was furious to breaking point. Yet, he suppressed his fury. He felt emotionally unstable. Sasha and the two men were surprised. How can this cripple tolerate such act? This is unbelievable. You cripple, you really won't tell us? All right, then. Divorce. We will get a divorce. Seeing Isaiah standing firm, Sasha changed her tactics and threatened to divorce him. Isaiah stood up, "Humph. Let's do it. We'll get a divorce as you wish." With that, Isaiah turned and started to leave. Sasha and the two men were dumbfounded. Something's not right. Why did Isaiah not respond to the carrot or the stick? No. We can't let him leave without the information we need about Morris Group. They hurriedly caught up to him. "Isaiah! You cripple, you can't leave." The three of them were about to stop Isaiah when a man suddenly stepped out in front of them. The man was none other than Levi. "Move aside, this is between us and Isaiah. It's none of your business." Charlie and Tom tried to push Levi aside, but it felt as if they were pushing at a mountain with their bare hands. Levi did not budge at all. "Get lost." They were about to attack Levi. Smack! Slam! Somehow, Levi landed 2 hard slaps on Charlie and Tom's faces. The slap threw the men a few meters away and a few of their teeth flew out. The Protector Chapter 263. Everyone looked at Levi in disbelief. How is he so strong? Aren't you going to scram? Levi asked coldly, glaring at the bewildered Sasha. Sasha ran off immediately. Levi then left with Isaiah. Levi, Isaiah, we won't forget this. Just watch out, we're going to get you for this. As they watched Levi and Isaiah depart, Charlie and Tom were full of anger and hatred. Before Sasha left, she asked the crowd if anyone had taken photos or video clips. After confirming that no one did, only then did they leave. After leaving the restaurant, Isaiah bawled his eyes out. He was just an ordinary guy who wanted to live a peaceful life. However, these scoundrels had victimized him and changed his outlook. How cruel of them to treat him this way. I know you still have a glimmer of hope in your heart for Sasha before. But you can finally see the situation clearly now, don't you? Levi asked. It's clear now. Mr. Garrison, after this, I shall gather and list down all the evidence properly. I'll make sure these 3 bastards stay in prison for the rest of their lives. Before this, Isaiah did not have the heart to punish Sasha, but now his mind was made up. His last vestige of love for her had been completely used up. Good. Meanwhile, Charlie and Tom were not satisfied to let things be. No. Levi must be crippled, too. I will break Isaiah's other leg as well. Tom covered his face with his hand, speaking coldly. Charlie nodded his head in agreement. Exactly, these 2 must be crippled. Sasha said quietly, shall I contact the hitman? Yes, who can you get? The 2 men asked in unison. Sasha smiled, I know some people from a gym. A few of them are kickboxing coaches who have worked as hitmen before in the underground society of gangsters. One of them had just been released from prison. They are ruthless. If they do the job, Levi and Isaiah will never be able to use their limbs again. Great. You go and get these people. Tomorrow, we shall turn those wretches into cripples. The 2 men said angrily. After a night of collecting and sorting, the required evidence was complete. Just as Isaiah was thinking about the next step, he received a call from Sasha. Unexpectedly. Isaiah, can you come over for a while? I realize I was wrong. I'm not fit to be your wife. Let's divorce, all right? I don't want to be a burden to you anymore. Sasha sounded humble in order to trick Isaiah into walking into her trap. All right, let's divorce, then. Isaiah agreed to her request. Can you also ask Levi to come along and be a witness? Sasha asked. Isaiah lifted his eyes to look at Levi and the latter nodded his head in agreement. Fine, Mr. Garrison agreed. Isaiah replied. Okay, we'll be waiting for you at Youth Troop Commercial Building 2009. Opposite the Civil Affairs Bureau. Sasha heaved a sigh of relief. They were ready. Several muscular fitness coaches were already on standby. Steel pipes had been prepared. Isaiah, you're really a fool to come whenever I beckon you. Sasha smiled, her expression full of malice and cruelty. Levi and Isaiah were ready to leave for the meeting. Isaiah called the relevant department. Hello, how are you? I am reporting someone disrupting a military marriage. I'm serving in Defense Research and Development Center. My ID is ISA 4031. Yes, that is correct. I have the evidence. The location is Youth Troop Commercial Building 2009. In addition, he called the Commercial Crime Investigation Department and told them about Sasha's commercial and other crimes. Come on, let's go and watch the show. Levi and Isaiah arrived at the Youth Troop Commercial Building and entered Room 2009. Bang! The door slammed shut. Several huge strong men appeared before them holding steel pipes. The Protector Chapter 264. The muscles of these 7 to 8 people were well developed, especially they biceps, which were as big as human heads. The muscles lining the arms and legs bulged so much that they looked like there were snakes hidden under their skin. In addition, they were huge and looked more terrifying than normal gangsters. These were physiques trained in the gym with the help of protein supplements. They may not be real fighters, but their size were frightening enough. The moment they appeared, Isaiah got the shock of his life. In their presence, he felt small. Their arms were bigger than his thighs. Just one punch would be enough to kill him, he thought. Inside the room, Sasha, accompanied by Charlie and Tom, approached step by step. One side of Tom's face was swollen, and the same can be said for Charlie as well. They gazed at Levi with malicious intents. "Haha, Isaiah, are you stupid? You just come whenever I asked you to." Sasha laughed aloud. She looked at Isaiah as if he was a retard. Tom sneered, "Levi, something is definitely wrong with your brain. I didn't expect you to tag along with him without any hesitation." Levi laughed, "This concerns my staff, I'm going to see it through." Isaiah was very touched. If not for Levi, he wondered how these three would continue to use and abuse him. Isaiah said anxiously, What are you trying to do?" Charlie looked at Isaiah's left leg and said with a sneer, "Isn't it obvious? We want to cripple this leg as well." Sasha's face was pure evil as she said, "That's right, Isaiah, you dare to defy me. I guarantee for the rest of your life, you can only crawl around." Charlie and Tom turned their gaze towards Levi. "Rest assured, we have not forgotten about you, Mr. Garrison. You dared to attack us both, didn't you? Apparently, you must have forgotten how your leg was broken 6 years ago. Yet, you recovered after a stint in prison, didn't you? Today, we will cripple you. So Isaiah will have company." Ha ha ha. The three of them looked at each other and laughed hysterically. In their eyes, with these ruthless fitness coaches as their henchmen, there was no escape for Levi and Isaiah. "You people are so cruel. Aren't you afraid of karma?" Isaiah asked. "Karma? Is there even such a thing? We have enjoyed ourselves throughout these 6 years, haven't we? So what karma are you talking about?" The three of them laughed gleefully again. "You are shameless beasts." Isaiah, who was just a simple, honest, and law-abiding citizen, was bullied to the extent where he cursed aloud. Sasha glanced at the two of them and guffawed, "Now, if you both kneel down and apologize, perhaps we will consider letting you off the hook." As she spoke, those fitness coaches took a step forward. They waved the steel pipes held in their hands. Isaiah was scared out of his wits. His body was shaking continuously. Sasha and her two adulterous partners laughed mockingly at the sight of him. Trembling, "What a worthless trash! Even though Levi is a good-for-nothing himself, at least he is slightly better than you." Levi smiled and sat down on a chair nearby. He crossed his legs and even lit a cigarette. He did not look even a bit anxious. The trio were dumbfounded by his actions. Sasha asked him, "Levi, aren't you scared? I'm telling you. If you would kneel before me and crawl on the floor between my legs, I'll let you off the hook this time. And us, too. Mr. Garrison, if you would crawl on the floor between our legs, we will let you live." Tom and Charlie were eager to see Levi crawl on the floor under them. After all, he was their former boss. This demeaning act would really satisfy their ego. Levi took a puff of his cigarette. He smiled and said, "If you would kneel down before me, perhaps, I'll consider putting in a good word for you." The Protector Chapter 265. At that moment, Isaiah came to a full realization of the situation and he pointed his finger at Sasha, saying, "That's right. Sasha and you two other, worthless beasts. Kneel before me and I'll give you a lighter sentence. Otherwise, you three wretches will definitely regret it. At the words of Levi and Isaiah, the trio were stunned. Have Levi and Isaiah gone crazy? Don't they understand the situation? They're the ones facing a disaster, don't they know that? We are not the ones stuck in a sticky situation. At Isaiah's words, Sasha and her gang were furious. Are you not aware of it yet? You three are dumb asses. Isaiah sneered. He had never seen anyone so foolish before. Sasha screamed, bash them up. Kill them. I want them to crawl out of here by the time we're done. The fitness coaches who were already impatient to attack rushed towards Levi and Isaiah, waving the steel pipes held in their hands. Slam! At that precise moment, the locked door was burst open suddenly by force. In the next moment, a group of uniformed men rushed in. They were patrolling police and army guards. Don't move! Put down your weapons! Don't move! The group of fitness instructors did not even have the time to respond before they were all struck down onto the floor. The sudden pain that hit them as they struck the floor finally brought them to their senses. It turned out that their attackers were the troops and patrols. It's over. We're doomed. Using her sex appeal, Sasha had lured the fitness instructors here to beat up Levi and Isaiah. Never did the muscle men had imagined that they would get into this type of trouble. However, it was not only them. Sasha and her two male partners were in a world of troubles as well. Tom looked at Levi and Isaiah in disbelief and shock. He said, "You reported to the police?" "Not exactly. They're here to see you for other reasons, but since they happened to see that you're armed, I guess they'll have to add another charge." Levi smiled as he explained. Sasha and her partners in crime looked on in astonishment. If it's only a police report, only the patrolling police should be there. Why is it that the troops are also here? They felt puzzled. They were confused and bewildered. The captain of the West Point detachment, Timothy Lords, led the team. He issued the arrest warrant. According to conclusive evidence, Sasha and the three of you have committed crimes of intentional injury, commercial fraud, embezzlement of public funds, disclosure of company secrets and so on. You are now under arrest. Oh, that's right. There's two more charges, namely immoral activities outside of marriage and armed assault. Timothy added. After all, everyone had seen what they were doing moments ago. These charges were by no means trivial. To make matters worse, there were more to be added. Hearing these, the three were shocked. It was the end for them. All their crimes had been discovered and brought to light. They had to confess as it was obvious. However, what did the troops' appearance mean? Why are the troops here? The three criminals were stupefied. At this time, the first officer with the rank of lieutenant came to Sasha and her partners in crime. He showed them his credentials and said, "I am Kenneth Wayne from the political department of the Northampton War Zone. According to conclusive evidence, the three of you are suspected of sabotaging a military marriage. The Joint Law Enforcement Agency is hereby putting you under arrest. Any objections?" "What? Sabotaging of a military marriage?" The three of them widened their eyes in disbelief. No doubt, Sasha had been immoral in having extramarital affairs. But how does that involve any military marriage? Isaiah is not the member of any troop. Which military marriage did they get involved in? "Sir, I have objections. Where did the military marriage come from?" "We don't understand." Tom asked the question. "Right. When did we commit any military marriage crime?" "Sir, have you made a mistake?" Sasha and Charlie's eyes were full of bewilderment and they were puzzled. The Protector Chapter 266 Kenneth Wayne cast a glance at Isaiah and said, "He works for the national military, so Sasha having an affair is considered as violating the military marriage law." "What? He is a military personnel?" "No, he can't be. I've been with him for 10 years, how can I not know if he is?" Sasha was totally bewildered. Tom and Charlie were both puzzled, yet. "What type of soldier is Isaiah?" Kenneth sneered, "Comrade Isaiah is in the Defense Research and Development Center technical team. He is of course, considered a soldier, isn't he?" "What? Why didn't I know that?" Sasha and the other two adulterers were so frightened that their hearts leapt to their throats. Isaiah came before the three of them, took out his identity card and waved it in front of them. Their eyes widened in surprise as they read the information and seal on the card. Terrified, they broke out in cold sweat. "It's real. Isaiah is really working for the Defense Research and Development Center. When did this happen? How could I not know?" Sasha's eyes opened so wide in surprise that it seemed like they would pop out anytime. Tom suddenly came to a realization and he stared at Levi in horror. "Now I know why you didn't allow the divorce to go through last time. Was this the reason?" Levi smiled and said, "Well, it was a coincidence. No matter what, I would not let this woman dissolve the marriage so easily. Unforeseen by us, Isaiah's performance for the center was outstanding and he got the offer to work for them as a technical consultant. So naturally, what you are doing now is against the military's marriage law. You." Tom was so agitated that he almost fainted while Sasha and Charlie looked at each other in desperation. They had fallen into Levi's trap. Even though Isaiah only commenced his job at the center just recently, sabotaging a military marriage was a serious crime. They would face the consequences of their heinous actions. Seeing the three of them in this state, Isaiah felt vindicated. He laughed, "Ha ha ha, never did the three of you expect this day, did you?" "Didn't you say that there is no karma? Now you know, karma does exist. You just have to wait for it." A new thought occurred to Tom and he asked, "Do you have evidence to prove that I am violating the law?" Thought that there was hope, Sasha joined, "Yet, show us the proof of what you accused us of." Hearing this, Levi laughed. He took out a USB memory disk and projected a video on the wall. It was a video taken yesterday of the three humiliating Isaiah. Not only did they admit to adultery, but they also confessed to embezzlement of public funds and malicious wounding. "You bast *RD. You have a camera and microphone on you." After knowing the truth, Sasha and the other two went crazy. Yesterday, they made sure to check if the crowd had taken any videos or photos. But they didn't check on Isaiah. "So what else have you got to say?" Kenneth Wayne asked. He exchanged glances with Timothy Lords. Everything that had happened earlier was mind-blowing to the three. They would spend years in prison. Levi waved his hand, saying, "Please leave us for now. I want to talk to them in private." Kenneth and Timothy left them and waited outside the door. Looking at the three, Levi laughed, "Isaiah, I told you. They are going to regret their actions one day. How do you feel now?" "Never better." "Serves you right," Isaiah shouted. Sasha was so anxious that she was about to cry. Thud. She fell on her knees, hugging his legs. The woman wept and cried, "Isaiah, forgive me this once. I swear I'll be a good wife and mother in future. I will not mess around anymore. It's true. We're wrong. Master, please forgive us." The Protector Chapter 267. They believed that if Isaiah spoke up for them, they would have a chance. At the very least, they could spend less time in jail. Slut, you are not worthy of me. Get lost. Smack. Isaiah fiercely slapped her on the face. Slam. Wham. Smack. And you beasts! You are unworthy to be my students. Scram. Isaiah ferociously kicked the two men a few times. No, please. Sasha and the two men regretted. In their whole lives, they regretted this moment the most. In the end, Sasha, the two men, and the fitness trainers were all taken away. What awaited them were years of imprisonment. By afternoon, due to their social status, everyone soon heard the news about Tom and Charlie. Ron and the others were shocked. Could this be the end of Levi Group's two traitors? This showed that Morris Group was very powerful. The four giants in the Northampton Chamber of Commerce were still busy with the commander-in-chief at the ceremony, so they had no time to take care of them. Fortunately, the technologies of the Levi Group were leaked by themselves. Otherwise, we would be in trouble this time. Ron said with relief. Yeah, it's a good thing we were not involved. Braylon Stewart added. Wilden Signs wondered, we have underestimated the Morris Group. I think they are up to something really big. Agree. However, the Morris Group is so secretive. Ron said. Not knowing what your competitors were doing could be a worrisome factor. At this moment, Zahri Yount rushed in breathlessly. I know what the Morris Group is doing. Gulping some water, Zahri Yount continued, they have produced a batch of medical devices, but I don't know more details of it. Now all of it has been sent to the Quality Inspection Bureau for testing. If they pass the inspection, it will be mass-produced and listed. Who gave you this information? Wilden Signs asked. A distant cousin of mine who happens to work in the bureau told me. Zahri Yount replied. It doesn't matter what Morris Group has produced. We'll sabotage everything. They do. Ron and the others arrived at this decision. Zahri Yount smiled, that's easy. That is in my relative's jurisdiction. Without doubt, we can undermine Morris Group's progress. Ron smiled, good. No matter what products the Morris Group sends in for inspection, reject them will do. Wilden Signs asked, Fred, why don't you ask that cousin of yours to join us? Sometime? We can't keep asking him to run errands for us for nothing. Yet. We will be asking him for help quite often in the future. Braylon Stewart went along. Well, how about dinner at Lufthansa Club tonight? My treat. Let's invite him. Ron stood up and announced with a laugh. The next day, at the Morris Group head office, everyone was waiting for the good news from the Quality Inspection Bureau, hoping to start expanding their production line. Right on time, a vehicle drove up to the entrance and 3 officers came out of the car. Iris personally went to receive the visitors. The leader, a young man, looked at Iris and the others with disdain. He threw the quality inspection report to Iris and sneered, what is the Morris Group trying to do? Do you really plan to launch this kind of bad product into the market? What you have produced is a medical device. What if something happens to the users? Can you bear the consequences? Oh? What is the matter? Did it fail the test? Isaiah asked in a low voice. Yes, terribly. The Protector Chapter 268. His 2 companions said in confirmation, that's right. We tested it 3 times. And it failed all of it. Your product is of inferior quality. The young man Tony looked at Iris with disgust in his eyes, saying, Morris Group, I'm warning you. If you continue to send in product like this, I will still reject them. Humph, you guys better think over it. The inspection result was way below acceptable. The next test is in a week's time. Tony left quickly after that. Morris Group was not given even a chance to appeal. Iris and the others hurriedly read the quality inspection report. Finished reading, everyone was furious. The reason was exasperating. Iris and the team suspected that the quality inspection department had failed the product without even examining it. The issues they had highlighted on were totally irrelevant to their products. It was ridiculous. Immediately, they realized that someone had sabotaged them. The inspectors must have failed their product on purpose. They didn't want Morris Group's products to be launched. At this point, Levi walked leisurely toward them. "What happened?" he asked. Someone walked him through the situation and Levi was shocked. It was impossible for that procedure to go wrong. "Seems like they have someone in the bureau." "All right. I'll bring the product to the bureau personally this afternoon and insist for an inspection on the spot. Let's see who dares to fail it. After all, this has been approved by the Defense Research and Development Center," Levi said. "Will this work?" Iris asked. "Do you have other alternative?" Iris was silenced by Levi's question. Everyone in the Morris Group was anxious. On the contrary, Levi was calm, sipping his tea and smoking. In the office, he sat leaning against the back of his chair. Then he dialed Jesse Nielsen's number. "Jesse, I'll go straight to the point." "Who is in charge of Quality Inspection Bureau?" "Cameron." "Good. Please tell him that I'm inviting him over to Morris Group for some tea." Levi smiled and said. After that, he called the logistics minister and asked him to invite Sampson, the person in charge for DRDC's Quality Inspection Department, over to Morris Group as well. Shortly, Sampson arrived. To him, this was definitely the highlight of his life. Him having tea with the god of war? Man, he could brag this forever. Even the deputy commander-in-chief would envy him. However, there's a reason why Sampson was invited. He was asked to bring the quality inspection report of the medical instrument. Not long afterwards, Cameron arrived in a state of panic. He left his meeting in a hurry as soon as he heard about Levi's invitation. "Captain Cameron, don't be nervous. Take a seat." Levi smiled as he spoke. The trembling man obediently sat down on Levi's sofa. The host waved his hand and Azure Dragon poured Cameron a cup of tea. Holding the cup in his hands, Cameron dared not take a sip. This important man wouldn't summon me here for nothing. "Captain Cameron, do you know why I'm looking for you?" Levi asked. Cameron stood up immediately, shook his head and replied, "Chief, please enlighten me. Recently, Morris Group has produced a batch of medical devices and sent them to your department for quality inspection. Are you aware of this?" Levi asked. Cameron shook his head. "I am not. My subordinates didn't inform me anything about it." The Protector Chapter 269. "Oh, okay. Then let me do it. Not long ago, someone from your department delivered this, and told me that those medical devices are way below the passing grades. Not only that, but he also threatened to reject whatever products we send in for inspection." Levi said. "Hey? Did this really happen?" Anxious, Cameron broke out in cold sweat. "Shh. Let me finish. Before these devices reached the Bureau, I sent it to the Defense Research and Development Center for quality inspection. After all, they will be used in the medical industry, and I don't want any issues. Guess what? Not only were they qualified, but the results were also perfect in every aspect." Levi glanced at Sampson and smiled, saying, "Let me introduce you to Sampson, the head of the Quality Inspection Department from DRDC." Sampson handed the report to Cameron. "Captain Cameron, we tested this product 5 times, and not once did it fail the test. In fact, it is way better than all of the models available in the market. With trembling knees, Cameron started flipping through the report. At the same time, Levi handed another stack of document to him and said, "Captain Cameron, now this is from your department." Finished reading everything, Cameron nearly fainted from fright. The second report's content was obviously nonsense. They clearly did not know what product they were analyzing, and simply rejected it. Cameron was furious. This was done on purpose by somebody. How can this somebody be in my department? Worst of all, it involves the god of war. Isn't he courting for death? Levi smiled. Luckily I was careful about the inspection and sent this to Samson first. Otherwise, I'll be doomed. Chief, it's my fault. I did not discipline my staff enough. Cameron bowed and said, "All right then. Now that we know where the problem lies, let's solve it. Conduct the second inspection now and I'll come along. I am sure it will pass, won't it?" said Levi while he started moving toward the door. That tone sent chill down Cameron's spine. He knew that this was serious. Immediately, he went along. So did Samson. Azure Dragon drove them to the bureau. There were several cars parked at the entrance as well. Those senior managers from Ron's side were spotted coming down from the vehicles. Tony came out personally to greet them with a big smile on his face. Levi got down from the car, but he instructed Cameron to remain inside. When Tony saw the group, he snorted, "Hey Morris Group, what brings you here?" Again. Hearing the name Morris Group, smirks were evident on Ron and his subordinates' faces. Morris Group wants a recheck? Dream it. Levi smiled. Obviously, we are here for a second inspection. Tony immediately replied, "Are you all deaf? Didn't I say come back in a week?" A week? Since when there is such regulation? Not losing his gentlemanly smile, Levi said again, "Besides, there is no issue with our product. Can't we appeal?" Ron and his men laughed. "I guess you're here to cause trouble. Didn't you hear? Tony? Come back after 1 week. As business organizations, we have to abide by regulations." "That's right. Guys, learn from the Northampton Chamber of Commerce," Tony said in agreement. "Please enlighten me. Who made the rule for that 1-week time frame?" Levi asked coldly. Tony replied angrily, "I did." "So what? So your word is law in the Bureau?" "That's right. The Protector Chapter 270. Tony was really arrogant, acting almighty. "That's true. Captain Tony is in charge of the report section. If he says you pass, you pass." "Exactly. If he wishes to fail any product, there you go. In the Bureau, Captain Tony's word is law." In reply, Zaire yawned and Ron laughed. Tony looked at Levi with disdain. "Today, the Northampton Chamber of Commerce has also sent their products in for quality inspection. I don't even need to run through any analysis, and I'll give them a pass." As he spoke, his assistant who was on standby, handed Ron the quality inspection report. Everyone present watched in disbelief. Ridiculous. Taking over the report, Ron looked at Levi and laughed. "Now you know who is the man in charge of the Bureau." Tony glared at Levi and barked angrily, "Now get lost. I'm telling you. Within these 6 months, I will not pass any products you send in. So powerful, aren't you? Do the bureau chief has to obey your word as well?" Levi sneered in reply. Tony was taken aback at first but he quickly recovered and laughed, "Of course. Captain Cameron is my mentor who personally brought me into this department. He listens to all my words. So loser, if you have any wild wishes that I'll pass your product, drop it. Levi listened to Tony's rhetoric. With a meaningful smile, he shouted toward his car, "Captain Cameron, did you hear that? In the bureau, Tony's word is law. Have you been vacated from your position?" Captain Cameron. Tony and his group were stunned. They looked around but saw no one. "Who are you trying to bluff? Too bad it won't work. Even if he were here, he would obey me." Tony was masquerading ridiculously. "Tony, you scoundrel! When did the bureau come under your control?" Suddenly, an angry voice was heard coming from the car and someone got down. In a rage. "Chief! Chief Cam! You!" Looking at the person storming toward him, Tony was stupefied and his mouth trembled, unable to speak coherently. No, you are the chief. I'm your subordinate. Your word is the law here." Cameron was so furious that he felt like giving Tony a few slaps across his face. "Chief Cameron, I am sorry. I did not mean what I said." Tony almost knelt in front of Cameron. "What about your arrogant attitude barely a moment ago? Aren't you the boss here?" Cameron snorted. "No, Chief Cameron. Master, I was wrong. I didn't mean to overstep you. I just wanted to share your worries." Tony spoke hurriedly. Cameron pointed his finger at Tony's nose. "You are fired. Never ever step into the bureau again." Boom! This was a real blow to Tony, Ron, and his men. How could Tony be fired? Tony asked incredulously, "Master, why? What did I do wrong?" "You deliberately abused your position to sabotage the Morris Group. Was that not enough?" Cameron shouted furiously. No. Master, their products are indeed not up to par." Even at this point, Tony tried to argue. Upon hearing that, Cameron's face became black as thunder and he spoke angrily, "Then tell me. What products did Morris Group send in?" The Protector Chapter 271. Tony floundered, not quite knowing what to say. Because he had no idea at all. How could you disqualify them when you don't even know what they are? Aren't you abusing your power here? Listen, Morris Group has even sent their products for quality checks at the Defense Research and Development Center. They're more than qualified. This is First Lieutenant Samson Yelder from the Quality Inspection Department of DRDC. He's here to send us the quality inspection report in person. Thud. Tony fell to his knees. "Please forgive me, Master. I got carried away by lust and greed. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please give me another chance, Master." Tony groveled at his master's feet. "I'd expect better of you as my disciple. But you've completely let me down." Cameron was ruthless. "Go talk to the relevant authorities if you have something to say." Immediately after he spoke, the authorities arrived and Tony was taken away for investigation. Ron and Zahiri were utterly dumbfounded. They didn't expect Morris Group to ask Cameron to come forward. "I'll inspect Morris Group's product myself," Cameron said. The inspection took up the entire afternoon, and the quality inspection report showed that their products were qualified to be listed on the market. When Levi brought back the certificate of conformity, a great cheer went up from everyone in Morris Group. These products were put into mass production at once, and Iris had already gone to make arrangements with the distribution channels and merchants. Publicity must be done on the greatest scale. Hire the best publicity team and the most suitable spokesperson. Kieran relayed Iris's words. Now that the problem had been resolved, Levi felt a little more at ease, and he had the leisure to see how things were at Imperial Meadows Limited. Zoe had already gone through all the procedures for the establishment of the new company, and all that was left was to find a suitable office building to set up the company. "Have you found an office building?" Levi asked. "Yet. It's at Elysium Plaza. I'm going to sign the contract later. I even paid a deposit of 20 million. Zoe beamed. "Okay, I have time to spare. I'll go with you," Levi said. "Sure." At 3 in the afternoon, Levi and Zoe headed to the plaza in Zoe's compact car that cost tens of thousands. "Your car needs an upgrade. You're a big boss now." Levi chuckled. "It's fine as long as it's comfortable," Zoe said passionlessly. "Honey, you're not the same now. You're gonna meet crazy rich people every day. Imagine how insecure they would be if they want to cooperate with you but they see this petty little car. You look just like someone who would run away after getting a sum of money." "All right, I'll spare some time to get a car," Zoe conceded, thinking that his explanation was quite reasonable. "I'll buy you one." Although Zoe was touched, she didn't take Levi's words to heart. "Levi has no money. How is he going to get me a car?" They soon arrived at Elysium Plaza. When they were waiting for the elevator to go up, they saw Henry and Sean walking out from the inside. "What are you guys doing here?" Zoe had a bad feeling about this. What a coincidence. "Are you here to rent an office building as well?" "I'm sorry. But you don't have a chance now. I've rented the one that you're interested in," Zoe said. Sean, waving the tenancy agreement in his hand. The Protector Chapter 272. It turned out that the Lopez family had been keeping a close watch on Zoe's activities. Harry and the others were against the idea of Zoe breaking off relations with the Lopez family. Therefore, they were one step ahead when they learned that Zoe was going to rent this office building. The poor lady was dumbstruck when she saw the agreement in Sean's hands. She quickly got on the elevator with Levi and came to the office of the person in charge of Elysium Plaza. "Ms. Lopez, you're here." Barney Geller, the person responsible for the negotiation of the contract, greeted her warmly. "I'm here to sign the contract, Mr. Geller," said Zoe. "We were on the phone. Remember? I'm renting Block B for 5 years at 30 million. Barney looked confused. "Didn't the Lopez family just sign the contract, Ms. Lopez? They said they had already discussed with you and even paid the remaining 10 million. Zoe and Levi exchanged glances and immediately thought of Henry and Sean. "Mr. Henry signed the contract on behalf of the Lopez family," Barney said, handing over the contract to Zoe. Zoe's expression took on a drastic change after reading the contract. The Lopez family was too evil. The 5-year tenancy agreement was signed in Zoe's name, but the purpose was for the Lopez group to use it as an office building. In another word, the Lopez family would be using the office building that Zoe had paid for. How dirty! As Zoe had negotiated the contract in her name personally and paid 20 million in advance, the Lopez family could get away with just 10 million. Zoe was on the verge of tears. How could they be so cruel? Aaron and Caitlin too were infuriated when they learned about it. But they had no other choice unless they cut all ties with Harry. "He doesn't think of me as his son at all. He's always been biased toward my brothers and never helped me." Aaron was furious beyond words. The next day, Lopez Group moved into the new office. Harry and the others' faces were glowing. Moving to a new office for just 10 million was a great deal. But Zoe could only watch helplessly. "Zoe, you've made another contribution to the family. I'm so happy for you." Henry chuckled. "You did great, Zoe," Harry added. "I'm very happy. I will commend you at the Annual meeting. I heard that you want to move to a new office building as well, Zoe. Is that so? Sean laughed. What a bummer. Elysium Plaza is fully occupied. Zoe balled her fist tightly. Not only did the Lopez family trick her, but they also even came to humiliate her. Imperial Meadows Limited's office building is pretty nice, Zoe. You don't need to change. Besides, it's uncertain that you can move in even if you've signed the contract. Fabian laughed. Ha ha ha. Harry and the others cracked up. Of course Zoe understood that that was a threat. The Lopez family was set on preventing her from setting up a new company. No matter how much effort she put into looking for an office building, her company could never move in. For a moment, Zoe was aggrieved and felt very weepy. She cared so much for the Lopez family, but they didn't take her seriously at all. It was absolutely impossible for her to establish a new company unless she severed all ties with them. Leave it to me, honey, said Levi, who was standing next to Zoe. Just go back and get ready to move into a new office tomorrow morning. Hey? For real? Zoe looked at Levi in disbelief. Nothing will go wrong if you listen to me. After leaving Elysium Plaza, Levi went to look for Chloe. The Protector Chapter 273. Can you help me find out if there are any commercial buildings for sale in the city center? Levi asked. Hey? What are you up to? Chloe replied with a question of her own. Zoe wants to set up a new company and I need to find her an office building. Levi replied. Chloe was green with envy. How nice would it be if I'm the heroine? Okay, I'll ask around for you. Chloe first reached out to her connections, then contacted the director of Bayview Garden Real Estate. Finally, after a few hours, there was a response from an old client of Chloe. He was the owner of Union Square around Northampton Center, where there was a building that was vacant and could not be more suitable to be used as an office building. Chloe brought Levi to Union Square to meet the owner, Emmett Brown, who had been waiting for a long time. Emmett had lost hair over the crown, livid rings around his eyes, and a pale face. It was obvious at first glance that he had been living a life of debauchery. Chloe was decked out in a business attire and a pair of high heels that complemented her beautiful long legs that were wrapped in black stockings. Looking exceptionally sexy, Emmett couldn't help but ogle at her. But he kept his desire under control as he brought them to tour around the building. Levi immediately took a fancy to it. It's definitely much better than Elysium Plaza, especially its location. The price must also be expensive. I supposed it's about 80 million for 5 years. The price is negotiable. Why don't we take this discussion to my office? Emmett rubbed his hands and simulated pleasure. He had his eyes on Chloe for some time now. In the past, he even wanted her to submit by buying her a house, but he was rejected. Emmett swore to sleep with her today. At the office, Emmett chuckled, as you guys know, Union Square is located at the prime location in Northampton, second only to Northampton Center. It would cost 200 million for 5 years. Hearing that figure, Levi and Chloe's complexion changed. They were fully aware of the market price. This old geezer is demanding an exorbitant price. Don't you think that's a little unreasonable, Mr. Brown? Levi asked. True, he had the money, but he couldn't tolerate daylight robbery. That is the price for this area. Why did you even look for this area if you can't afford it? Emmett was uncompromising. Then let's negotiate the price. 200 million is too much. Levi said. Yeah, Mr. Brown. Is it possible to negotiate? Chloe spoke up as well. Emmett cast Chloe a lecherous glance. Of course we can, but it depends on who's the one to negotiate with me. Emmett looked at Levi. If it's him, then end of discussion. But if it's you, Ms. Macy, there will be lots of discounts. We can talk about this. Slowly. Chloe glanced at Levi to get his permission before nodding. Okay, Mr. Brown. I'll do it. Emmett grinned. I don't like it when there are other people around when I'm talking business. So this gentleman, may I ask you to leave? Wait for me outside, Levi. I'll handle this. Chloe said. After Levi went out, Emmett locked the door from the inside. Chloe's face darkened. What is this supposed to mean, Mr. Brown? Emmett smirked, so that we won't be interrupted, Ms. Macy. Mr. Brown, please tell me the lowest price you have in mind. Emmett smiled lustfully, that depends on your attitude, Ms. Macy. The Protector Chapter 274. Chloe looked surprised. My attitude? Yet, your attitude will determine the price. Emmett put on a wicked grin. I'll be straightforward with you then, Ms. Macy. Just sleep with me for one night and I'll reduce the price to 80 million. What? Chloe's expression changed. She immediately understood that Emmett had deliberately raised the price. I knew it. It's only 80 million at most. He raised the price to 200 million just so he could coerce me into sleeping with him. Emmett got up and walked closer to Chloe. Think about it, Ms. Macy. You are worth 120 million. Isn't that a great deal? You're definitely the most expensive woman in the world. Emmett Brown. You did this on purpose. Do you think I'm blind? You know. What, that's a big fat no. Chloe retaliated. So what if I did it on purpose? If you don't agree, I swear your friend can never rent an office building in Northampton. It's a matter of my words with my connections and reputation. Think wisely before you answer me. Emmett laughed cunningly. He couldn't hold back any longer. Chloe fell into a daze. Emmett definitely has the ability to do this. As someone who took Levi's affairs more seriously than herself, she would feel sorry if she couldn't find an office building for him. In her trance, Emmett lunged toward her. Come on. Just give in to me, will you? I'll be nice. Emmett laughed obscenely. Whether Chloe was willing or not, he was determined to sleep with her today. He had already arranged someone to take care of Levi so that no one would disturb him. Bang! Boom! In the nick of time, the security door banged open and then crashed on the ground. Levi's dramatic entrance froze Emmett and Chloe to the spot. How did Levi kick open the security door? Is he even human? Levi slowly approached Emmett while smoking a cigarette. All the security guards behind him had collapsed to the ground. Thump! Levi sent the pervert flying with a single kick and he slammed heavily on the table, spitting blood. The nerve of you to hit me! I swear you'll be in for a nasty ride and you can never rent an office building in Northampton. Emmett howled. Levi puffed on his cigarette and sat down in his leather chair. I was going to negotiate with you as an ordinary person, but I didn't expect you to be someone like this. Well, I'm going to lay my cards on the table. The entire Union Square belongs to me now. Emmett snorted, keep boasting. Although Chloe knew Levi's strength, she thought he was getting way ahead of himself to buy the entire Union Square. Levi called the head of the Rogers family, Glenn. Hello, Rogers? It's Levi. I'll give you 10 minutes. Buy out the entire Union Square. Glenn was shocked at first, then he said, the Rogers family holds the controlling share to Union Square, so it's practically yours. Okay. Come over and settle the paperwork. Levi said. Buying the entire Union Square in 10 minutes? You know, I may have the management right in Union Square, but the Rogers family has absolute control over it. Emmett was still clamoring. 5 minutes later, the Rogers arrived. Emmett quickly donned a welcoming smile when he saw them. What brings you here, Mr. Rogers? Emmett's livelihood depended on the family. A word from them would decide his life and death. The Protector Chapter 275. Hence, Emmett was grinning like a Cheshire cat when he saw the Rogers family. Pow! Anthony suddenly punched him in the face, causing blood to spurt from his wounds. Pow! Bang! Crash! Leo and the rest joined in giving Emmett a violent beating. While Chloe wore a blank, flabbergasted expression, Glenn disregarded them as he handed a contract to Levi with a smile. Union Square belongs to you now, Mr. Garrison. Emmett's face lit up with surprise when he heard that. Who on earth is this man to have the Rogers family hand over Union Square in less than 10 minutes? Mr. Garrison, Leo said. I swear this trash, Emmett, will have one hell of a life from here on. Then Emmett was thrown out of here. That would be nice, Levi said, picking up the contract and walked away. Chloe looked at Levi's back view with starry-eyed infatuation. Her adoration for this man amplified. When Levi went back, he accompanied Zoe to Galaxy Hotel. The Lopez family invited Zoe over to the special banquet they were having to commemorate their relocation to a new office. Dear Zoe, why do you have to go through all the trouble just to be independent? What's wrong with working side by side with the Lopez family? Henry said. Yeah, unless you don't acknowledge the Lopez family anymore and you want to betray us, Fabian said, unsparing. Zoe's fist clenched. Haven't I been contributing to the Lopez family? But how have you guys treated me? At this moment, Harry raised his wine glass, saying, we owe a special thanks to someone today. And that is Zoe, who paid for the new office building for Lopez Group. Everyone cheered. But Zoe's and her parents' hearts were writhing in pain. Tell me, Zoe. What's your plan after this? Melanie asked. Hear me out. Hand over the investment money and give Grandpa a free hand to handle the project. As for you, just be a capable assistant and I promise, your career growth will be guaranteed. If Grandpa favors you in the future, who knows, you'll be the next head of the Lopez family. Sean nodded. Yeah, Zoe. It's hard for you to fly solo now. No one will agree to it. No matter how hard you try, your efforts will be in vain. In another word, Zoe would end up the same as today if she sought independence again. They would rob her off a new office building again and again. In the end, she left in a huff and Levi immediately went after her. Grandpa always prefers males over females, and he never likes me. Zoe sobbed by the roadside. Honey, don't worry. I'm here. Levi smiled, handing Zoe the tenancy agreement of Union Square that floored her. What? 10 million for 5 years. But how? She thought about renting an office building in Union Square before this, where the real city center was. While it would be a demonstration of the company's strength, it could gain the trust of investors and business partners as well. However, she could only give up as she had expected the rental to be 100 million for 5 years. Okay, don't get too worked up. Get ready and move in tomorrow morning before the Lopez family finds out, said Levi. The next day at Lopez Group's office building at Elysium Plaza, everyone was still basking in joy when Sean came running in. Grandpa, Uncle Fabian, Dad, we have a problem. Imperial Meadows Limited is actually moving. The Protector Chapter 276. The Lopez family was blindsided by the news. Does that mean they have found a new location? Where are they moving to? Harry's voice quavered. I'm not sure where specifically, but I think they're moving to the city center. Sean said. Come on, let's go take a look. We must stop them. Shortly after, they arrived at Union Square, which was one street away from Northampton Center. This place was the legit city center. They were surprised to see that the people of Imperial Meadows Limited were actually unloading their things to Union Square with Zoe and her family in command at the entrance. Harry and the others hurried over to them. Zoe, what are you guys doing here? Harry asked. We're moving. Zoe smiled. What's wrong, Grandpa? To Union Square? Are you sure about that? How expensive it must be. Harry said. Zoe's smile widened. Grandpa, it's not. It's just 10 million for 5 years and it's much cheaper than Elysium Plaza. 10 million. Oh my God. Harry almost fainted over. The Lopez family could only watch as Imperial Meadows Limited moved to a new place. It was too late to stop them. This place was 10 times more upscale than Elysium Plaza. The Lopez family could feel nothing but regret. I mean, how do you guys think Zoe found Union Square? Harry asked after leaving Union Square. And for 10 million? How is that even possible? I supposed this bitch sold herself. Henry suggested coldly. Hey? How do you mean? Harry and the others looked at him curiously. From what I've heard, the owner of Union Square, Emmett Brown, is a pervert who have scourged God knows how many women. He promises anything as long as you sleep with him. That bitch must have slept with him. Otherwise, why would he rent it to her for only 10 million? Yet, that bitch must have slept with him. What an unscrupulous bitch. The Lopez family cursed. What a disgrace to the Lopez family. How are we going to preserve our reputation if word goes out? Harry wished he could get it even with Zoe at this instant. Dad, hold your fire. Let's go home first and we'll come up with something to get back at them. Fabian said. Harry spluttered, ha, so that's how it was. And here I am wondering how did she get all those investments recently? Just look at how beautiful Zoe is. Melanie said grudgingly. Won't all the men bow at her feet if she sleeps with them? Haha, sadly that idiot Levi doesn't know that she has cheated on him. Sean said. In front of Union Square, Zoe and the others watched as the Lopez family left. Woefully. This feels so good. Zoe exclaimed. Yeah, what a great day. Did you guys see Henry and Fabian's faces just now? They looked like they were about to cry. And Dad was totally freaking out. Aaron was stoked at his first-time triumph against Harry. Dad, it's all thanks to Levi who negotiated the deal. Otherwise, the rental would have been 80 million. Zoe said. My good son-in-law. You have made us proud. Aaron patted Levi's shoulders. After Zoe took care of things there, Levi returned to Morris Group. The Protector Chapter 277. Morris Group had been very busy these 2 days, so much that Iris had slept for only 7 hours a day at most. When Levi arrived at the office, Iris was still in a meeting and he was called to sit in. The main topic of the meeting was the publicity and endorsement of the product launch. There was definitely no problem with the reputation of the product. All they needed to work on was the advertisements. As for the ambassador and spokesperson, I've chosen a few celebrities and influencers. Lil Lacey especially has a record of bringing in millions of sales from her broadcast. It would be great to have her to promote our products. Does anyone have any comments? Iris said. Nope. With our marketing efforts, nothing will go wrong. Someone replied. Levi was about to doze off from listening. What's the matter, Levi? Do you have something to say? Iris purposely called him out. Most of the people in the room scoffed at this technical advisor as they didn't expect him, a once brilliant man, to be muddling along. But for the sake of Iris and Isaiah, they kept a cool head. I disagree. Levi yawned. Disagree? Everyone gaped at him. In what? It was because Iris wanted to listen to Levi's opinion that she invited him to attend the meeting. We're selling medical instruments. What's the use of hiring celebrities and influencers as ambassadors? Iris's face clouded with disappointment. 6 years of imprisonment has worn away his brilliance. It's only right to look for a popular celebrity when it comes to promoting a product. Only then will the products be made known. With the reputation of these celebrities as guarantees, partners and retailers can buy with confidence and we can ensure maximum profits. Okay, dismiss. Levi wanted to say further but Iris announced the end of the meeting. Straight away. Levi was startled. What is this woman doing? Iris glanced at him and chastised, don't you ever attend any future company meetings? Everyone regarded Levi with disdain, thinking that he was goofing off. Levi smiled wryly. I'll let Iris have her way first then. After getting off from work, it flashed upon Levi that he had to get Zoe a new car. Thus, he went to Coastal Street the next day, where all the Ford's dealership stores gathered. He had been a regular customer here 6 years ago, so he was familiar with this area. For some reason, it was really crowded today. It seemed like there was some sort of event going on, seeing how there were many filming equipment and good-looking personalities along the street. Levi disregarded them and headed toward the Mercedes-Benz Ford's dealership store. Hold it right there, sir. Several salespersons at the door stopped him. What's wrong? Levi asked. What are you doing here, sir? The salesperson asked. I'm here to buy a car, obviously. Levi said. Oh, not today, sir. There's an event going on at the moment. The salesperson looked askance at Levi. As this was Northampton's largest Mercedes-Benz Ford's dealership store, customers who were serious about buying cars would have made an appointment and the store would send someone to pick them up. Having been doing sales for 7 to 8 years, they could see that Levi was incapable of buying a car. People like Levi were like those window shoppers whom they had to deal with almost every day. Hence, fed up with it, they outright rejected him in the name of the event. The Protector Chapter 278. Right then, a few men in suits arrived. The salesperson immediately went up to greet him. Mr. Olson, you're here. Yeah, I'm here to buy a car. What's wrong? Do I need to make an appointment for that? One of the men asked. The salesperson smiled obsequiously. No, sir. Please, come in. You're always welcomed here. Marshal Olson smiled. That's another hundreds of thousands order there, perhaps even 1 million. Hold up. Why are they allowed to enter? Levi asked quizzically. Because they can afford to buy a car and you can't. Marshall said straightforwardly. Several other salespersons looked at Levi with a mocking face as well. Why should we waste our time on people who have no intentions to buy a car? I want to meet your manager. Levi barked, his face gloomy. Haha, who are you to meet him? Marshall snorted. He's busy. What's with the commotion outside? What's going on? A woman in her 30s came out from the inside. She was dressed in business attire, looking dignified. Ms. Gimat, this guy is forcing his way in when he's not even here to buy a car. Marshall said, pointing at Levi. Mandy was astonished when her eyes fell on Levi. Well, isn't this the great Mr. Garrison? Levi could vaguely remember her as Mandy Gimat, who was a mere salesperson 6 years ago. At that time, she would be subservient and servile whenever she saw him. He couldn't believe that she was a manager now. Yeah, it's me. I'm here to buy a car, but your people wouldn't let me in. Levi said. Mandy chuckled, I think what she did was right. Our time is precious, so why should we entertain you when you don't even have the money? Who told you I don't have the money? Levi retorted. I can buy every single Ford's dealership store on Coastal Street right now if I want to. What do you mean I don't have the money? Enough with the bullshit, Levi. You think I don't know what you're capable of? You just came out of prison and you're depending on your wife for livelihood. Do you think you're worthy to buy a Mercedes-Benz? Levi sneered, is that how you treat your guest? I, for one, am realistic. Mandy retaliated. You were worth billions 6 years ago. And I'd served you like a slave. But now you're nothing, so why should I entertain you? Get lost now. You're not welcomed here, you poor bastard. Mandy gave him a mouthful. It was a cathartic experience for her, and she had never felt so refreshed before. In the past, she worked her fingers to the bone for Levi. She could almost lick his boots just to secure his deal. Now that Levi was in dire straits, she took her chance to wipe away her own shame. Yeah, this is not a place for poor bastards. Just get a motorbike and scram. Others chimed in. Levi ignored them and turned toward the Audi Ford's dealership store next door. Ha ha ha, you're going the wrong way. The next doors are Audi and BMW, which are probably more expensive than a Mercedes-Benz. Mandy chortled. Ms. Gimat, should I go take a look? Marshall sniggered. It's okay. He can't afford to buy a car. Mandy re-entered the store. Levi's entry to the Audi Ford's dealership store was smooth. How may I assist you, sir? Wendy, the salesperson, asked with a smile. The Protector Chapter 279. Levi drew out a black card directly and handed it to her. I want all the cars in your store. Wendy froze, asking uncertainly, can you repeat that, sir? I want all the cars in your store. Immediately. Now. Wendy accepted Levi's black card with unsteady hands. Is this the world's limited edition American Express black card? Wendy was thunderstruck when she saw the card. Not only did the black card have an unlimited quota, but it also came with many privileges. Wendy was completely convinced that she had met the legendary zillionaire. She quickly informed the manager of the store, who ran out shortly after with a few other employees. Greetings, sir. Our store has 248 vehicles in stock and the total price is 180 million. The manager faltered. Make it 200 million. Swipe it. Levi said. The manager was on the verge of tears, and so were the others. Did we just achieve half a year's performance in one day? Choose a car that cost over $1 million for me and proceed with the formalities. I want to drive it back. Send the rest to Morris Group. Levi said. The manager personally chose a 1.7 million Audi RS7. The body of the car was red, which suited Zoe a lot. After all the formalities were completed, he called Jace, the general manager of the Audi dealership in Northampton. At this moment, Jace was having tea with Corey, the general manager of the Mercedes-Benz dealership. What's up? Jace asked, answering the phone. I have great news for you, Mr. Renner. A customer just bought all the cars in my store. He even swiped his card on the spot for 200 million. Jace jolted to his feet upon hearing it. As Audi wasn't one of those top luxury cars that cost about tens of millions, he had never seen such a rich person before. Receiving an order of 200 million was indeed too good to be true. One more thing, Mr. Renner. This customer was kicked out from the Ford's dealership store next door. Those idiots from Mercedes-Benz think this zillionaire can't afford to buy a car and won't even let him in. Ha ha ha. Jace broke into laughter when he heard this. Thanks to those idiots, we get to snatch this 200 million deal. What's so exciting, Jace? Corey asked and Jace told him about the incident. Congrats, man. I would love to meet such zillionaire too. Corey was envious. It was a 200 million deal. Jace chuckled, all thanks to your staff, Corey. Hey. Corey looked dazed. This zillionaire went to your store at first, but your staff stopped him outside and called him a poor bastard, thinking that he can't afford to buy a car. So he had no choice but to come to my store. Otherwise, how else do I get this deal? Haha. Corey froze, his face contorted with blue veins bulging on his temples, and his eyes spelled death. Mandigi Mat, you bitch. Do you know what you done? The Protector Chapter 280. Okay, I'm done with you. I'm going to meet this sugar daddy, said Jace, rising to his feet. Corey followed. I'm coming with you. I need to apologize to him. If not, I wouldn't know how I'll die for messing with such a big shot. The two general managers then left for Coastal Street at full speed. Meanwhile, Levi was enjoying tea at the VIP lounge with about 7 to 8 people serving him. Someone even offered to massage his leg. In the Mercedes-Benz Ford's dealership store, Mandy asked, is the poor bastard out yet? Nope. It's been more than half an hour. Marshall said. He must be here just to check out the cars. Mandy chuckled, isn't that so? I've been in this industry for so long. A genuine buyer will never stay more than 10 minutes. Only those poor losers will dawdle for half a day and wind up not buying anything. Yet, I knew it at first glance that he's too poor to buy a car. Marshall laughed. Just then, several staffs of the Mercedes-Benz Ford's dealership store came in. Noisily. What's with the noise? How improper! Mandy rebuked, her face ugly. Aren't you aware, Ms. Matt? Something big is happening on Coastal Street? What is it? Mandy and Marshall asked curiously. The entire Coastal Street is in an uproar. The Audi Ford's dealership store next door actually sold 248 cars in stock at once for 200 million. That's a first in history. Everyone has gone to spectate. Hearing that, Mandy, Marshall and the others immediately went out. And sure enough, there was a crowd of over 100 people outside the Audi Ford's dealership store. Everyone came to watch, wanting to get to know this zillionaire who was still sitting in the VIP lounge. Mandy and Marshall too joined the crowd. Who is this zillionaire? Why didn't he buy a Mercedes-Benz from us or a BMW? From you? Mandy asked the manager of the BMW Ford's dealership store. I don't know. The manager replied. But I heard this zillionaire had been to your store before coming to Audi. Mandy and Marshall looked at each other. They couldn't remember meeting such a zillionaire. After all, they were many customers today and the only person who had given them the deepest impression was Levi. But they were certain that he wasn't that zillionaire that they spoke of. For some reason, the two of them had a bad premonition. I heard that Mr. Renner, the general manager of Audi dealership in North Hampton, is coming to meet this zillionaire. Damn, with that profit, they're going to get at least a 20 million bonus. The peers looked on enviously, and so were Mandy and Marshall. If they had been the one to secure this deal, Mandy would have gotten a bonus of tens of millions. Just then, an Audi A8 drove by. Coming down from the car was a middle-aged man in long sleeves who went straight into the Ford's dealership store. Many people recognized him as Jace Renner. Following closely behind was a Mercedes-Benz, and coming down from the car was the general manager of Mercedes-Benz, Corey Stone. At Corey's arrival, Mandy and Marshall hurried over to greet him. "Mr. Stone, what brings you here?" Mandy asked with a smile. But Corey slapped her hard on the face as soon as he saw her. "Stupid bitch." The Protector Chapter 281. The stinging slap across the face jolted Mandy. She covered her face and looked at Corey incredulously. "Mr. Stone, how have I offended you?" Slap. Corey gave her another tight slap across the head. "You stupid B*TCH, don't you know what you've done wrong?" What have I done wrong?" Mandy repeated in puzzlement. Marshall and the others were burning with curiosity as well. "What did we do?" Slap. Corey slapped her again. "I really don't know what I did wrong, Mr. Stone," Mandy cried, her face swelling up. "Do you know about the zillionaire at Audi next door?" Corey asked sternly. "Yeah, they spent 200 million at one go," Mandy, Marshall and the others said. "Then let me tell you something. This zillionaire had gone to our store first." Corey shouted madly. "What?" Mandy and Marshall's faces fell. "Hey? The zillionaire really came to our store? Then why didn't he purchase anything?" Mandy and Marshall asked. "Why? Aren't you guys at fault for this? How is he going to buy a car if you guys didn't allow him to enter?" "Yeah, I also heard that this zillionaire was kicked out of the Mercedes-Benz Ford's dealership store. They even called him a poor bastard." Hearing that, Mandy and Marshall were dumbstruck with terror. Surely they had chased away many potential customers in the name of the event today, but they didn't expect a zillionaire to be among them. "Fools! I'm going to kill you. Don't you understand what you did wrong? You've ruined me!" Corey roared. At this moment, there was a hubbub inside the Audi Ford's dealership store, with a crowd forming around a man as they walked out. "Here he is, the zillionaire," someone shouted, and everyone looked over. Corey quickly went up and bowed in greeting, catching Levi off guard. "Nice to meet you, sir. I was wrong. I've failed to educate my staff. Mr. Garrison, this is Corey Stone, the general manager of Mercedes-Benz." Jace introduced. Levi put on a straight face which almost gave Corey a heart attack. "So is this what it feels like to step off on the wrong foot? Dear Mr. Garrison, I just found out what happened. It's my fault for being lax in educating my staff. I didn't expect to have such unqualified subordinates. Please accept my apologies." Corey bowed. Thereupon, he dragged Mandy, Marshall, and the rest to the front. Levi slowly shifted his gaze to them. When Mandy and Marshall looked up, they nearly passed out in shock. "It's Levi Garrison. Levi's the zillionaire who had bought 200 over cars at once. He's really here to buy a car and our store was his first choice. But we drove him away. Where did he get the money to foot a 200 million bill at once, though?" The Protector Chapter 282. Everyone was scared silly. Can his gaze be any more frightening? Why is a zillionaire like him keeping such a low profile? Why isn't he decked out in designer brands? Who would have thought that he is the zillionaire? Is it too late to say that we regret our actions? Marshall and the others regarded Mandy with resentment. If it weren't for Mandy's vicious mockery towards Levi, they wouldn't have followed suit and acted so badly. Mandy was scared out of her pants. Right then, Levi's voice was heard. I don't accept apologies. Corey panicked. Shit. Is the end of me for offending such an invincible zillionaire? Mr. Garrison, I swear I'll fire Mandy, Marshall, and the 8 other staff at once. He said hastily. And any company or Ford's dealership store related to Mercedes Benz will never hire them, ever again. Mandy and Marshall wanted to faint. Corey had just cut off their source of income by stripping them off of their high-paying job, and that was just about the biggest punishment there was. We at Audi shall not employ people like Mandy, Jay seized the opportunity to announce. We at BMW will never hire people like these either. Porsche as well. Mandy, Marshall, and the others' faces darkened. All the car brands on Coastal Street had made their stance clear, which was akin to them being banned by the entire industry. At the very least, they would have no other means of subsistence in North Hampton. Levi sneered at Mandy, and they said women have good intuition, I guess not. Hearing that, Mandy, Marshall and the others got on their knees, begging, we were wrong, Mr. Garrison. Please forgive us just this once. Levi turned a deaf ear and left straight away, leaving Mandy and the other women a crying mess. Somebody get rid of these scum! Corey yelled. Something magical had happened in front of Morris Group's office building today. It was a stunning spectacle in which 200 new Audi were delivered and parked on the square. Most importantly, the higher-ups of Morris Group were all kept in the dark. The incident soon alarmed Iris as she hurried down with a group of executives. Several trucks were still unloading the cars on the square. Excuse me. What's going on here? Iris asked in a fluster. The truck driver replied, the person in charge of the Audi 4's dealership store said there's a big boss who had ordered 200 over Audi in a single bill. I was told to send them to Morris Group, and that's all I know. A big boss? Why did he buy so many cars? Iris was all the more confused because she didn't have a clue who the buyer was, and that was when Isaiah ran out. Ms. Annabelle, it's the big boss who bought them. His words sent shock waves through the crowd. This big boss's style of doing things is really unfathomable. Why did he buy so many cars? Just then, an Audi A8 came to a halt before them. Coming down from the car was Kieran. Mr. Atkinson. The employees went up to greet him. Since y'all are here, I have an announcement to make, Kieran said, seeing that almost everyone from the upper management was around. Morris Group will soon implement a reward system. Rewards will be given according to individual performance. Regardless of whether you are an executive or an ordinary employee, there will be a reward if you perform well. You saw the rewards cars. We don't hold back on rewarding our staff. The Audi parked in the square cost at least 400,000 each. As long as you work hard, the 2 million Audi R8 sports car could be yours. The Protector Chapter 283. But of course, if you don't want a car by then, it can be converted into cash. I've also heard that the big boss has plans to reward you guys with houses and mansions in the future. As long as you make profits for the company, the company will give you a future. Yes, sir. The entire Morris Group seethed with excitement at Kieran's announcement. The reward system had struck exactly the right note with the employees. Rewarding a car that costs at least 400,000 is too posh. We must work harder. Only then can we enjoy a brighter future in this company. Not many departments have shown outstanding achievements as the company has just been established, Kiran continued. But we are all witnesses to the achievements of the technical department, aren't we? With that, the big boss has decided to reward 15 cars to the technical team. The technical team went wild. Isaiah was so exhilarated that his eyes brimmed with tears. The others looked on enviously, vowing to work even harder. We want to contribute to the company as well. We want a car too. I'm so going to get that most expensive sports car. Seeing the employee's spirited demeanor, Iris exclaimed inwardly. How intimidating this mysterious boss is to win over the people's hearts with just a snap. The additional revenue the company will earn in the future will be far more than these rewards. Who on earth is this big boss? Meanwhile, Levi was on his way to Union Square. It wasn't because he was angry that he bought 200 over cars on Coastal Street in one transaction, but because he had really wanted to reward the employees. He had sent 30 cars to the manor that Azure Dragon and the others were staying in, and 10 cars to James. In front of Union Square, Zoe was standing by the roadside glumly because her crappy car had just broken down. The mechanics had arrived stating that the car needed a major repair that would cost about 10,000. As her car cost only 30,000, it wasn't worthwhile to repair it. I guess I should really get a new car, Zoe muttered to herself. It was rush hour, and it was too difficult to catch a cab by the road. But at that moment, a car suddenly stopped next to Zoe. The window rolled down to reveal a young man who was taking off his sunglasses, saying, "Where are you going, pretty lady? I'll give you a ride." "No, thank you." Zoe refused bluntly. "Don't get me wrong, pretty lady. I'm not a bad guy. I work at Union Square 2 Saturn Group, right next door to your company. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Damien Stan, the deputy head of the procurement department of Saturn Group." Damien came down from the car and handed Zoe a name card. This was his chance to strike up a conversation with her. He had been observing Zoe all day today and even bragged to his colleagues that he would make Zoe his. Out of courtesy, Zoe accepted the name card. "Please, Ms. Lopez. Where are you going? I'll give you a ride." Damien looked at his car and smiled. "This is my new Tesla, it cost about 800,000. It's really comfortable inside. You'll be surprised, Ms. Lopez." "It's okay. I'll just take a cab," Zoe refused nonetheless. "I'll drive you," Damien insisted. "We're neighbors, what's there to be afraid of?" Just as he was about to reach out to pull Zoe, a loud honk was heard. The Protector Chapter 284. Zoe and Damien stood frozen as they looked at the car. It was an Audi RS7 that cost almost 2 million, and it was much classier than Damien's Tesla. The car window rolled down, revealing a face familiar to Zoe. "Honey, get in. Don't just stand there," Levi said. Zoe came back to her senses and quickly hopped on. Damien was stunned, malice flashing in his eyes. Just how rich is this woman's husband to drive a car that costs 2 million? And she's married? But it's okay. I'm going to sleep with her no matter what. In the car, Zoe was full of curiosity. The interior of this car is too luxurious. As expected of a 2 million luxury car. "Where did you rent this car, Levi? I bet it's not cheap to rent it for a day." Zoe didn't even think that Levi would buy a car. "Honey, I bought this car for you," Levi chuckled. "Didn't I tell you that day?" "Are you serious?" These are the contracts. Have a look." Levi handed a pile of documents to Zoe, who went giddy when she saw the contracts. "This car is really mine. Thank you, darling." Zoe expressed her gratitude by giving Levi a kiss on his cheek. Just as Levi was about to reciprocate, Zoe shouted, "Red light! Red light! Watch out when you're driving!" Levi continued driving helplessly. It was soon known to the Lopez family that Zoe had gotten a new car. Aaron and Caitlin had specially come out of the house to see it. "Mom, Dad, I bought a car for you too. I'll have it delivered later," Levi said. "Geez, how could I have forgotten about them?" Thereafter, Levi called Isaiah and asked him to send over 400,000 cars. Half an hour later, 2 Audi were sent to Bayview Garden with the completed paperwork. Aaron and Caitlin couldn't be bothered to eat as they rushed downstairs to look at the cars. They were so in love in their new cars that they could hardly tear themselves away from them. Even Zoe was also studying her new car. At this time, Iris had returned from work. She couldn't help but laugh when she saw the Lopez family's behavior. "What are you guys doing? My son-in-law bought cars for us," Aaron said proudly. Iris looked over and saw 3 Audi. "Aren't these our company's cars?" she blurted. "Your company's cars? What's going on here?" Zoe asked. Iris told them about the reward system. The technical team was rewarded with a dozen of cars today, and Isaiah has the right to distribute them. He's nice to Levi, and it was he who brought Levi into the company. Otherwise, how do you think Levi could work in Morris Group? "So you're saying that these cars were given to Levi by Isaiah out of friendship?" Zoe asked. "That must be it. You guys keep this matter to yourselves. If other employees of the company find out about this, they will be disappointed." After all, Levi was rewarded with 3 cars for lounging around and doing nothing. Iris enjoined. In fact, she wasn't satisfied either. How is it that Levi could get 3 cars without even contributing to the company? And one of them even cost $2 million? If I'm already this unhappy, imagine how the employees would feel. Aaron's expression fell. The Protector Chapter 285. He had thought his son-in-law had brought them glory by buying 3 cars at once, but they turned out to be gifts gifted out of friendship. Even though the cars were in their hands, it wouldn't feel pleasant to drive. After all, Levi didn't buy them with his own money. How suffocating would it if they had to drive in secret and not tell anyone about this? "Uncle, Aunt, don't be mad. Levi did it with the best of intentions, after all. Just feel free to drive them." "You have my word," Iris said. "Thanks, Iris." Aaron and Caitlin felt much more relieved at that, but they were still dissatisfied. With Levi. How humiliating would it be if words get out? Luckily, Iris has reminded us. Levi, who was eating, didn't know what had happened. When he saw them coming back, he even asked them, "Mom, Dad, don't you guys like it? Don't you ever do such humiliating things again?" Aaron roared. "Yeah, we appreciate your kindness, but let this be last time. I don't want to lose face." Caitlin raged as well. Levi put on a puzzled face. "What's wrong? Was it Isaiah who sent us the cars?" Zoe asked. "Yeah, he sent them." Levi nodded. "Because that was the truth." Right then, Zoe and her parents remained quiet, leaving Levi baffled. The next day, Zoe drove to work early. As Levi exited the house, he met Iris at the doors. Iris glanced at him and smirked. "Seems like you're still a pretty decent person." What do you mean?" Levi asked. "I thought you were going to drive an Audi as well," Iris sneered, then drove off. Levi simply smiled and jogged out the door. He had been running to and fro work these days because he was used to it in the army. He would feel sick all over now instead if he didn't move his body. Bayview Garden was located in a high-class area with lots of parks, which was a treat to runners. These parks had joined forces to set up a track several kilometers long within the perimeter. Move away. This place has been sealed off. Go somewhere else. At this moment, Levi came head-on to a team of security guards who were holding trained police dogs in their hands. Those who were jogging or playing were forced out. Levi saw that there were a group of people in the security guards' wake, some lifting cameras on their shoulders, some holding props such as light shields, and others holding computers. It seemed that a celebrity has come by. The most conspicuous thing Levi saw was that a beautiful woman was being carried by 4 men. It was as if she didn't want her feet to touch the ground at all. Slow down. You're tipping me over. What a load of idiots. Not only was the woman complaining, but she also even threw a banana peel on the curb. Isn't that the influencer, Lil Lacey? Someone who recognized her at the side said in surprise. She seems polite on broadcast, but why is she so different in real life? Yeah, she has the vibe of a girl with positive energy. How can she be so uncivilized? A look of bemusement spread across the crowd's faces. Haha, a lot of influencers are like this. They just fake it for the camera. What you see on screen is all filtered. Levi was slightly annoyed. How can mere influencers have special privileges to get rid of the locals? Isn't the park a public area? Right then, the team of security guards stood before Levi. Move out of the way. What are you looking at? The Protector Chapter 286. Levi stood still. He had no intentions of giving way. Who gave them the authority to seal the roads? Just as the security guards were about to fly off the handle, Lil Lacey, the influencer behind, suddenly slapped one of the 4 men who carried her in the face with a crisp sound. Is your brain filled with shit or something? What the hell are you doing? You almost dropped me. Lil Lacey screamed. This particular staff quickly apologized. I'm sorry. My foot slipped. I'm really sorry. But Lil Lacey slapped the staff in the face again, despite his apologies. The people around burned with anger at her treating her staff with such brutality. How unkind of her to slap him just because his foot slipped. A few people even took out their phones to film as they wanted to expose what this influencer was truly like. What do you think you're doing? Did I agree to let you film? Go to hell. Lil Lacey's anger spiked when she caught them in the act, then she turned toward her manager and said, Amelia, look at them. Smash their phones, quick. We can't let them post the videos online. Amelia immediately ordered, get rid of their phones now. The videos must never get out. A dozen of security guards rushed forward to those who were filming, snatching their phones away and smashing them to the ground into pieces. These people choked with silent fury. They couldn't afford to mess with that influencer. There was a tall young man, however, who was still clutching his phone, to which 2 security guards had failed to grab it. What do you think you're doing? It's against the law to take my phone, the man retorted. Against the law? Listen, we are the law. We call the shots. A few more security guards joined in to snatch his phone away before smashing it to the ground before his eyes. Compensate me for my phone. I demand justice, or this will not end. The young man hit the roof. Lil Lacey shot a glance at him and said, beat him up. The security guards charged forward at her command at once, pinning the man to the ground. Stop it! A voice sounded all of a sudden. The security guards stopped short and looked over to where the sound came from. It was Levi. Is this how a famous influencer should behave? He asked with a sneer. Upon hearing Levi's words, Lil Lacey exploded, "Who the hell are you? Stay out of this." Levi let out a suppressed laugh. "As a man of justice, I can never turn a blind eye to injustice. Fine. Since you're a nosy retard, I'll make an example of you." Lil Lacey commanded the security guards to make a move on Levi. "I'll give you a taste of a viscous dog bite," the security guard snorted coldly. "Bite him." The dogs they were leashing started barking. Especially after the security guards let go of the leash, they became more and more manic and were ready to rush over. But the next moment, Levi's eyes darkened in a slight glint, his body exuding a solemn killing aura. To everyone's surprise, these dogs actually prostrated themselves to the ground. And their bodies were trembling. Levi had killed countless enemies on the battlefield and was conferred with the title of Battlefield Butcher, War Machine and many more. There was a murderous aura about him that had been honed on the battlefield. The Protector Chapter 287. These animals who had heightened senses as compared to humans were petrified. Let alone a few vicious dogs, even lions and tigers would prostrate themselves in worship at Levi's murderous aura. The security guards and Lil Lacey gawked. "What's wrong with these dogs? What are you people standing there for? Get him!" Lil Lacey and Amelia chorused. The security guards sprinted toward Levi. Pow! Crash! With blows from Levi's fists and kicks from his feet, all the guards lay wailing on the ground. 30 seconds later, the onlookers applauded. "Nice one, man. You're strong. These scoundrels need to learn their lessons." Lil Lacey and Amelia were scared stiff. Levi walked over to Lil Lacey and pulled her down in one swoop. "Have you got no legs? Do you really need someone to carry you around?" Levi questioned. Lil Lacey wanted to refute him, but she shut her mouth meekly when her eyes met his terrifying ones. "Lil Lacey, was it? Apologize to them now and compensate for their phones," Levi said in a commanding tone. "I don't." Lil Lacey was just about to refuse when she heard Levi's voice. "I'm sorry," she quickly bowed her head and apologized. Amelia could only admit defeat as well. "I'm sorry. Compensate them now," Levi commanded. Amelia compensated them in the end with the original price of their smashed phones. "Nice." Everyone applauded again. "Can we leave now, sir?" Amelia asked softly. "Hold up. So you're the famous influencer, Lil Lacey, hey? Is Morris Group working with you?" Levi asked. Amelia nodded. "Yes, that's right. Lil Lacey has signed a contract with Morris Group as the ambassador and spokesperson for their new products." Lil Lacey gave Levi an inquisitive look. "What's the meaning of this?" "Okay, I'm dissolving this cooperation between you and Morris Group," Levi said. "Morris Group will never allow people of questionable character to be their ambassador." Amelia laughed. "Haha, this is a bit too much, isn't it, sir? Who are you to dissolve our cooperation with Morris Group? I am someone from Morris Group and I am qualified to terminate your contract. Don't worry. Morris Group will never use unethical people like you." Amelia snickered. "Then what's your name? What happened today will not end here. Remember this, my name is Levi Garrison. You can look for me anytime at Morris Group." With that said, Levi left the place. Lil Lacey and Amelia's eyes were filled with resentment as they looked at Levi's retreating back. "Amelia, quickly send someone to identify him. I want him gone." Lil Lacey shook with fury. She was used to being arrogant and domineering. Having been shamed in public for this first time, she vowed to wipe Levi off the face of the earth. Amelia tugged her lips into an insidious smile. Didn't you hear him, Lacey? He's from Morris Group. Okay, Lil Lacey said. Quickly inform Morris Group that I want to terminate our contract. I want Morris Group to drown in regret. Amelia gave her a thumbs up. That's a brilliant move. Even if Morris Group doesn't kill that bastard, he will be fired at the very least. The Protector Chapter 288. Lil Lacey's eyes were bloodshot. I'll kill him with my own hands. Amelia nodded. I'll seek help through our connections and we'll put him to death. What a disgrace today. Meanwhile, Iris had just arrived at the office and was having a regular meeting. When her secretary suddenly came running in. Ms. Annabelle, we're screwed. Everest Entertainment had just called to say that Lil Lacey wants to terminate her contract with us and will no longer be the ambassador and spokesperson for our product. A heavy silence fell upon the room. Hurry up and patch me through to Lil Lacey's manager, Ms. Mackey. Iris said. Instantly. What can I do for you, Ms. Annabelle? Amelia sniggered once the call connected. Ms. Mackey, may I know why exactly are you terminating the contract with us? Iris asked mildly. Didn't we come to an agreement already? Haven't you heard, Ms. Annabelle? Someone from Morris Group has terminated our contract. We can't work with Morris Group anymore, so we can only make it official from our side first. Amelia laughed grimly. Iris asked through clenched teeth, could you tell me who it is who wanted to terminate the contract? Then listen carefully, Levi Garrison. Not only did he terminate our contract, but he also even beat up our security guards and insulted Lacey in public. So we're terminating our contract and we'll never work with your company ever again. Goodbye. Amelia hung up directly without giving Iris the chance to speak. After answering the phone call, Iris slumped in her chair. What happened, Ms. Annabelle? Everyone asked quizzically. Levi Garrison. He messed with Lil Lacey, and now they are terminating their contract. There's nothing we can do now. Iris wore a look of despair. That won't do. We're going full blast tomorrow, and Lil Lacey is the star of the show. Yeah, we're starting with the promotion tomorrow. What should we do now? Iris shot up to her feet and said, I can only go there and talk to them myself. At the corridor, she met Levi, who had just arrived, head on. This is all thanks to you, Levi, she snarled. What did I do? What did you do? You messed with Lil Lacey, and now their company is terminating their contract with us. Our main ambassador is gone. Iris's eyes nearly started out of her head. Levi chuckled, it's better that they terminate the contract. Our company won't stoop so low as to use her. Do you know how much damage it will do to us if Lil Lacey's contract is terminated? Not to mention the publicity effect will be greatly compromised. We'll lose 20 million in terms of money alone. Iris snapped. Listen, Lil Lacey is a person of questionable morals. Hiring someone like her to be our ambassador is an insult to our product. Levi told Iris about what had happened. I'm angry to hear that too, but those are her private affairs and we can't control it. We only care about her image as an influencer and how much profit she will bring us, Iris said. Levi smiled, you don't understand? She has the publicity effect, but that's just temporary. Humph, how can you do business like this? You're the one who doesn't understand. Iris huffed and left. Where are you going? Levi asked. The Protector Chapter 289. I'm going to beg her. Iris answered. Levi disregarded her and went to the office of the technical department, drinking tea and smoking cigarette while Iris went to Everest Entertainment personally to negotiate with them. However, the other party was adamant about terminating the contract. Unless you fire him after he kneels before me and apologizes to me, or end of discussion. Lil Lacey gave Iris only one way out. Yes, that bastard must come and apologize on his knees. They were firm in their decision. Iris's face paled. I can make the decision to fire him, but I need to ask him about the apology. I'll go back and figure this out. No sooner was Iris out of earshot than Lil Lacey and the others burst into laughter. You dare to challenge us, Levi Garrison? You're dead meat. Lil Lacey's eyes were loaded with hatred. After returning to the company, Iris immediately went to look for Levi. Come, follow me to Everest Entertainment. Levi looked stunned. For what? To apologize. They said as long as you apologize to them on your knees, and then I fire you, they will overlook this matter. Iris bit her lips. I can only sacrifice you for the greater good of the company. But don't worry, I'll compensate you once you apologize to them. Levi shook his head. You're asking me to kneel down and apologize to them? Hell no. They should be the ones on their knees apologizing and begging us to sign them. Iris's temper sparked at Levi's attitude. He's the one at fault. Why isn't he trying to solve it? Levi Garrison, you're the one who created this mess. Are you going to take care of this or not? Iris asked coldly. Over my dead body. Levi was very resolute. Fine, I'll get someone who can talk some sense into you. Iris left in a fit of pique to call Zoe, telling her the whole story. Shortly after, Levi received a call from Zoe. Listen to me, Levi. Go and apologize to them. The interest of the company is more important, after all, Zoe said. I won't. How could I apologize on my knees to some trash? Besides, I didn't do anything wrong. Levi stood his ground. Okay, even if you're right, you have to think about the interest of the company. No? And Iris and me? A man has to take responsibility. Besides, it's because of you that this happened, Zoe said. There's no way I will apologize. I won't apologize even if you kill me. You disappoint me so much. Zoe hung up the phone in anger. Knowing that Levi wouldn't go to apologize no matter what, the entire company was pointing fingers at Levi, including the canteen ladies and uncles. Look at him sitting there eating shamelessly. He's a useless piece of sh*t. Does he really think he has the power? He's nothing without Isaiah. He should have just apologized and get it over with. Does he think he can stay in the company forever? Levi felt a little aggrieved at the murmurs of dissent coming his way. I didn't do anything wrong. Why do I have to bear the consequences? Why do I have to get on my knees and apologize? What is wrong with this world? Levi would rather die than apologize. Iris couldn't help it either. On the other side, Lil Lacey had found out that Levi had turned his nose up at their demand. Okay, Amelia. Let's show them what we got, she sneered. I'm going to cut off their publicity channels, including their ambassadors. Let's see what they can do. The Protector Chapter 290. Iris stayed in the conference room, rubbing her temples. She was brainstorming solutions with everyone when her phone suddenly rang. Her face changed dramatically, and her phone almost slipped out of her hand. When the call ended, we're screwed. We're totally screwed. It turned out that the caller was the manager of the popular star, Wanda, from Everest Entertainment, who was also one of the signed ambassadors. The manager had called to inform Iris that they would be terminating their contract as well. Thereafter, Her phone rang again. "Hello, Ms. Annabelle. I'm the manager of Sean Hanks from Everest Entertainment, and we are requesting to terminate our contract with your company." "Hello, I'm Lil Jasmine's manager from King Entertainment and we want to cancel our contract with you." "Hello, nice to meet you. I'm from Star Media. We would like to dissolve our contract regarding the promotion of your product." The calls came one after another. A total of 10 celebrities and influencers that Iris had approached had called to terminate their contracts, including most of the publicity channels. Some forum websites had also informed that they could only provide recommended advertisement space on classified pages to Morris Group instead of advertisements on their home pages. Even the newspaper offices had informed that they would no longer publish any news about Morris Group. After receiving a dozen of phone calls, everyone's faces were drained of all color and animation. They came near to a breakdown. They didn't expect that Lil Lacey's termination was just the calm before a storm, and that the worst has yet to come. Things were already bad enough without Lil Lacey as their ambassador, and now that various publicity channels had been cut off, Morris Group was completely finished this time. No one would show interest, no matter how good the product was, because there was no publicity at all. How on earth were they going to sell their products if no one knew anything about them? "We've underestimated Lil Lacey's power in Northampton. Offending her is equivalent to offending the whole entertainment industry. No one will sign with us ever again." Iris drew in a deep breath. It's all Levi's fault. Why the hell did he mess with Lil Lacey? Is she someone he can afford to mess with? Georgia, Iris's assistant, said coldly. "Yeah, it's all Levi's fault. Everything is ruined now. I know, right? All the products can't be shipped off now." Everyone regarded Levi as the sinner of the company. Right then, Levi swaggered into the conference room, smiling. "What are you guys worried about? What do you think we're worried about? All the ambassadors have terminated their contracts and almost every publicity channel has been cut off. What are we going to do with our products?" one senior executive shouted. "I've told you that those people that you hired are not suitable. It wouldn't be effective to hire them," Levi replied. "You guys don't understand who are your real target audience." Iris sprang to her feet. "How could you say that at this point in time, Levi? Our original plan was to start promoting tomorrow and officially launch the products 3 days later. Who are we going to sell them to now?" Iris yelled. "Don't worry. Everything will turn out for the best. It will sell like crazy by then," Levi said. "Get out of here now. I don't want to see you for a while," Iris barked. How she wished she could fire him right there and then. But she couldn't say much for the sake of Isaiah. Levi was really on a downer. Is she really chasing me away from my own company? Fine, I'll just let this slide until her anger subsides. The Protector Chapter 291. And so he left the company. Iris had gathered her employees for a meeting again, and the theme was simple: change nothing and minimize the damage as much as possible. She also made it a point to tell her employees to keep this matter from Neil, as she didn't want the big boss to find out. It would only reflect badly on her as an incompetent leader. Azure Dragon had arrived to pick Levi up after he left the company. "Did you manage to reach out to Benny Quinton?" Levi asked Azure Dragon, who had come to pick him up from the company. Azure Dragon nodded. "Yes, sir. Mr. Quinton was so happy to hear from you. He would love to meet you too." Levi smiled. "Tell Mr. Quinton to come to Northampton 3 days later. Just tell him that Levi Garrison needs a favor from him." Azure Dragon guffawed. that is wonderful. You, sir, are the nation's god of war. And Mr. Quinton is the nation's greatest doctor. You both are the nation's greatest treasures. One must be living under rock if they didn't know who Benny was. Benny Quinton was a legend, the star of the medical field who had saved more than 1 million people over the past few decades with his godly hands. He would always be on the front lines before a great disaster, leading hundreds of thousands of doctors in defeating the enemy. He was a god in the hearts of thousands of people. Coincidentally, Levi had saved Benny once before, and ever since then they were as thick as thieves. They were both defenders of the country who had greatly contributed to their respective fields. There was no telling how many countries were envious of Arudia for having two great defenders of the country. And tell the Rogers family to bring me all the celebrities that they had invited to their last celebration, Levi said. Roger that. That night when Levi returned home, Zoe had been giving him the cold shoulder. It's just a small matter, honey. Is this really necessary? Levi asked in a relaxed manner. Small matter? I thought it was just a small matter as well, but I didn't expect it to snowball like that. The entire Morris Group is affected because of you, do you know that? I don't understand. Is it so hard for you to get on your knees and apologize? Levi's expression changed. Why should I bow down to such lowlifes when I've never bowed down to any gods? I know you're a man of moral fiber. And I know that you're right. But can't you just put yourself down this once for the greater good of the company? Zoe snapped. Levi shook his head. No. I will never apologize for something that I didn't do wrong. Then go away. I don't want to see you for a while. In the end, Levi was kicked out of the house. Walking in the courtyard, Levi had wanted to scrounge a free meal off Iris, but her door was tightly shut. He had no choice but to go home and grabbed a few steamed buns before he hit the streets. Coincidentally, Una had just finished a meeting and was on her way home when she suddenly saw a familiar figure by the road. Jamie, look! Is that Levi Garrison? Una asked. Yeah, it is. Jamie, Una's assistant, replied. I can't believe he's actually eating steamed buns on the streets, Una said in surprise. Seems like he got kicked out. Boy, I thought he had it in him. Come on, let's go over there, Una said. Levi was still nibbling on a steamed bun when a Rolls-Royce Cullinan suddenly stopped beside him, honking. Eating steamed buns, eh? Una snickered as she came down from the car. The Protector Chapter 292. Is that any of your business? Levi looked up, a grim smile on his lips. No, I mean, I thought you're doing well. How did you wind up eating steamed buns on the street? Una felt an irresistible urge to laugh. In her heart, Levi was nothing but a rotten person, and it felt good to see him in a wretched state. Did your wife kick you out of the house, Mr. Garrison? Jamie asked. Ha 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 ha. Una burst out laughing. I supposed you can survive with your salary right now if you're still single, but you have a family to feed. Your wife is so brilliant, don't you think you're too far behind? It's none of your business. Get out of the way. Levi looked irritated. Next second, Una took out a stack of cash from her purse and threw them at Levi. Dinner's on me then. And she left with her assistant shortly after. Levi couldn't believe his eyes when the stack of cash fell in front of him. Did this woman just hit me in the face with money? This is absolutely insulting. A god shall never be crossed. The Gonzalez family, was it? You people have been testing my patience. Your glory days are over. There was a cold glint in Levi's eyes. The Gonzales family and the Northampton Chamber of Commerce are finished. They must have a death wish for screwing with me. Una couldn't be any happier after insulting Levi. Did you see his face when you hit him with the money, Ms. Gonzales? Jamie laughed. Ha ha ha. Una was rolling in the aisles. As soon as she returned home, she recounted the story of meeting Levi to the Gonzales family, who all applauded, including Winston. Well done. Okay, enough about this. Clint, the Gonzales family's second son, interrupted. Dad, I was just informed that the great doctor, Benny Quinton, would be coming to Northampton in 3 days. Mr. Quinton is actually coming to Northampton? That is huge. Winston gasped, jolting to his feet. Winston's health had been going downhill. He had invited Benny to Northampton many times but was rejected nevertheless. Regardless of how much he had offered, whether it was $1 billion or more, Benny was unbending. Everyone knew that Benny was a man who did not care for social norms. He was the symbol of rectitude in Arudaya who despised the bigwigs the most. No matter how much he was offered to treat a patient, his answer was always a firm no. He could treat them, however, on the condition that they registered themselves at the hospital that he worked at like any other ordinary patient. In his eyes, patients were just patients, and they were all to be treated equally. Benny had been residing in Vermont and had never left the city for decades. Hence, it was a great shock to Winston when he found out that the great doctor was actually coming to Northampton. Did someone invite Mr. Quinton over? Winston asked. Beats me. I can't imagine who in Northampton or even the whole of Arudaya could make Mr. Quinton come out of his shell. He's the god of Arudaya. Clint remarked in surprise. Winston's eyes flickered and instructed, Clint, invite Mr. Quinton over when the time comes. I want to host his stay in Northampton. Got it. How exciting. I can't believe I'm going to meet both the god of war and the great doctor of Arudaya. Winston was already looking forward to it. Not only the Gonzales family, but the Northampton Chamber of Commerce had been informed of Benny's arrival in Northampton 3 days later as well. The 4 noble families of Northampton were naturally excited to meet this great doctor. Haha, let's go pick him up at the airport 3 days later. The Protector Chapter 293. I can't believe we get to meet the 2 great gods of Arudaya. Benny Quinton has unparalleled medical skills. I want him to see what's wrong with me. In particular, the Northampton Chamber of Commerce accounted for a large proportion of the pharmaceutical business in Northampton. It would guarantee the reputation of their pharmaceutical business if they had an acquaintance in Benny. With the many benefits that they could stand to reap, their plan was simple: they must invite Mr. Quinton for tea at the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. The next day, the news that the great doctor, Benny Quinton, was coming to Northampton had spread across the entire Northampton. Only God knew who spread the word. Everyone respected Benny as God, and they couldn't wait to meet him. This only went on to prove the reputable status of Benny Quinton. Everyone in Morris Group was also discussing this matter today. After all, a great doctor like Benny was looked up to by many. However, they weren't as excited as the public as it was the first day of the promotion of their products. And it was an absolute disaster. In addition to the news of Benny Quinton's arrival, all resources had been monopolized. Morris Group couldn't achieve the result that they wanted at all. Iris was about to sink into the depths of hopelessness. With such poor results on the first day, the second day was predictable it would only get worse. Iris had considered various ways, but to no avail. Knowing that Benny would be arriving in Northampton real soon, every publicity channel and media were reluctant to accept any other advertisements. Iris braced herself for the worst. If they couldn't sell their products in the first phase, they would lose at least 1.8 billion. How Iris wished to jump off a cliff. She had come all the way back from overseas to further her career, but only to be faced with such a gruesome reality right after she had started to see results. How was she going to face Mr. Atkinson and the mysterious boss? Thankfully, Levi hadn't come to the office for 2 days. Otherwise, he would be adding fuel to the fire. It had been 2 days since Iris last saw Levi as well. But she had no intention of seeing him again unless he apologized and got himself together. The much-anticipated 3rd day soon arrived. Yet, it was a cruel and unbearable day for Morris Group because there were still no results on the 3rd day. Iris was still mourning in her chair for the few million that went down the drain. When Levi unexpectedly showed up. "Send me a car. I need to pick up someone at the airport," Levi said. "Hey? Who are you picking up? How dare you come back, Levi?" Iris and the others made no effort to repress their fury. "Just send us the best car you got, Ms. Annabelle. Mr. Garrison and I will go together," Isaiah smiled. Unable to turn him down, Iris proceeded to arrange for the company's Lincoln limousine to send them to the airport. "Levi's a nuisance. Who the FK is he picking up at the airport, anyway?" the upper management raged. Naturally, the person Levi was going to pick up was Benny. Although Benny's status was incomparable to Levi's, he was an old-timer whom Levi admired. And since Levi had a favor to ask of him, it was only polite for him to pick up the great doctor in person. When they arrived at the airport, they were shocked at the crowd. There were just too many people. Besides the public, the Gonzalez family, the Northampton Chamber of Commerce, and many other wealthy families had all gathered at the airport. Even Winston was waiting with anticipation among the crowd. When Morris Group's car arrived, a clamor broke out. "Ha ha ha, even Morris Group is here to invite Mr. Quinton? No way!" Eric sneered. The Protector Chapter 294. Everyone was dismissive of Morris Group's arrival, as too many influential people were present. In their opinion, no one else was qualified to pick up Benny, but the Northampton Chamber of Commerce and the richest man, Winston Gonzalez. But there again, who else had the power to invite Benny to Northampton all the way from Vermont? Una was waiting at the side with Winston when she caught sight of Levi and Isaiah. Grandpa, look! Isn't that Levi Garrison?" The Gonzalez family looked over. "What is he doing here? Is he trying to pick up Mr. Quinton too?" Winston wondered. "Dad," Clint said. "Levi's a man of no scruples when it comes to achieving his goals. He must be trying to take advantage of Mr. Quinton." Winston snorted, "I'm standing here. He'll never get this chance. No one is more qualified than me." "True that. He probably came along for the ride," Una said. At that moment, she saw Levi walking towards them. The Gonzalez family were puzzled, wondering what he was up to. "Is he trying to blackmail us for having saved Sir before this?" the housekeeper suggested. Una stared at Levi repulsively. "If that is true, Levi sure is rotten to the core." Seeing Levi, Winston greeted with a smile, "How may I help you, Levi?" Levi looked intensely at Una instead and said coldly, "I will not pursue this matter. If you bring your grandfather and your father to come and apologize to me within half a month. Otherwise, I swear the Gonzalez family will have to pack their bags and to never step foot in Northampton ever again." Levi's statement was mind-blowing, so much so that the room fell silent in astonishment. What just happened? Am I hearing things? Did someone just provoke the Gonzalez family? And right in front of Winston Gonzalez at that? Even the heads of the four noble families of Northampton who were standing at the side were flabbergasted. Who the FK has the nerve to mess with Winston Gonzalez? Even Jesse Nielsen wouldn't dare to say that. Winston's influence is second to none in Northampton, be it wealth or political power. Messing with him is akin to messing with the foundation of Northampton. But some insolent brat actually dared to do it. And that person was no other than Levi Garrison, who had recently got out of jail. Ha 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 ha. Winston was howling with laughter. I've never heard of anyone wanting to destroy the Gonzalez family in my life. You're the first to ask for me for an apology on my knees. I'm warning you just this once. It's up to you whether you choose to listen or not, Levi said. Who the hell are you, Levi? Una snarled. So what if I hit you with money? I'm just being charitable. You're asking me to apologize to a poor brat like you? In your dreams. Levi simply ignored her, and the room fell into silence again. The Protector Chapter 295. The crowd knew that if it weren't for Benny's arrival today, Levi would be dead for sure. At this time, a large group of media reporters had arrived, holding cameras while waiting in silence. The arrival of the media reporters made it clear to everyone that Benny would be landing soon. Levi took out his phone and made a call. Azure Dragon, bring your men over. In the conference room of Everest Entertainment, Noah McCormick, the president of the company, was having a meeting with Lil Lacey, Amelia, and a few others. How's it going with Morris Group? He asked. Sir, Morris Group's new products are listed on the market today and there are 0 sales so far, his assistant replied. Noah, Lil Lacey, and a few other celebrities wore a surprised look on their faces. 0 sales? Lil Lacey asked. It can't be. Despite the impact, isn't 0 sales a little too much? Amelia questioned. The president's assistant smiled. Word has it that the Northampton Chamber of Commerce had imposed pressure on them as well. That's why Morris Group's new products had 0 sales. At that, Lil Lacey put on a proud face. Morris Group? Ha! That is what you get for messing with me, Levi Garrison. I swear the entire Morris Group will down with you. Who would dare to buy their products without Everest Entertainment's publicity and support? Noah sniggered. Barely anyone will know about them. I know, right? With all their publicity channels cut off, the outside world wouldn't know about their products. Besides, the news of Mr. Quinton's arrival have taken up most of the headlines in the media recently. Morris Group doesn't stand a chance, Amelia said. Yet, Morris Group is going to lose nearly $2 billion. Noah said, his voice cracking with glee. Now, we shall wait for Morris Group to come and beg us, Lil Lacey said haughtily, crossing her arms. I'd like to wait and see if Levi will apologize to us or not. He definitely will. That's $2 billion lost there. Amelia and the others were confident that Levi would grovel at their feet. Meanwhile, everyone at Morris Group became taciturn at their depressing sales. After the products went online for 2 hours. For some reason, a few clients who had agreed to purchase their products had suddenly changed their minds at the very last minute. Iris collapsed into a heap on her chair, her face pale. What a failure! 0 sales? What do we do now? How should I explain this to the big boss? Our competitors must have taken the advantage to attack us, Ms. Annabelle. Besides, with the news of Mr. Quinton's arrival dominating all media forums, no one will pay attention to our products, Georgia, her assistant, said. Actually, there is another way, Justine, the head of the marketing department, piped up. Why don't we invite Mr. Quinton to help us with the promotion? Not only can we minimize the loss, but our products will definitely sell like hotcakes. That's a good idea, but it's not practical. Even Northampton's richest man, Winston Gonzalez, has gone to the airport to reach out to Mr. Quinton. Do you think we can still stand a chance? Despair washed over everyone at that realization. Ms. Annabelle, what we have to do now is to minimize our losses as much as possible. There is no other way. Yet, I suggest we bring Levi to Everest Entertainment to apologize. That's our last resort, a few senior executives proposed. All right, Iris sighed helplessly. I'll go and get him. He has to apologize to them. No matter what. The Protector Chapter 296. Thousands of people had gathered outside the private passageway of North Hampton International Airport, and the numbers were still increasing. Right then, the insiders of the airport sent news that the private jet Benny was on had landed and he would be coming out shortly. The Gonzalez family was so shaken that their eyes never left the private passageway. Levi, on the other hand, had lit up a cigarette and was smoking, as if he could care less about the great doctor's arrival. A few minutes later, accompanied by noisy footsteps, Benny and the cabin crew came out from the VIP passageway. Benny Quinton might be in his 80s, but he was still hale and hearty and going strong. Not only was he the leading figure in the medical field, but he was also athletic. He was skilled in basketball, swimming, sprinting and other sports. He was an all-rounder, and the healthier he was, the greater the blessings for Arudaya. Benny was extremely down-to-earth. He was only wearing casual clothes and had only brought along an assistant with him. Most importantly, he was carrying his own bag and pulling his own luggage. Could this be compared to those conceited celebrities? No. He was a national treasure. The whole nation looked up to this guy. The crowd couldn't help but stand in awe at the sight of Benny. Nice to meet you, Mr. Quinton. I'm Winston Gonzalez, a local of Northampton. Also known as the richest man of Northampton. I've been learning to uphold your spirit, Mr. Quinton, and I would like to invite you today to my humble abode for a get-together. I'm thinking of contributing to the medical community and I would like to ask for your advice. Eric and the others' jaws dropped at Winston's speech. How smart is he to invite Mr. Quinton on the pretext of contributing to the medical community? Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Gonzalez, Benny smiled. But I'm here this time just to catch up with an old friend. Benny rejected his invitation. Benny actually rejected the richest man in Northampton. Hello, Mr. Quinton. We're from the Northampton Chamber of Commerce and we would like to invite you for a get-together with us. Eric took the opportunity to introduce themselves. Half of the business of the Northampton Chamber of Commerce is related to medicine, and we're the ones who produced all the medical equipment of major hospitals in Vermont. We would love to listen to your advice, Mr. Quinton. Thank you for your contribution to the medical community in Arudaya, Benny replied brusquely and walked past the four of them. The next 10 or so influential figures had come forward to invite Benny as well. But they were all rejected. The Gonzalez family was astonished. Then who in the world invited Mr. Quinton to Northampton? Who is this old friend that he spoke of? The mass exchanged mystified glances, wondering who would be the one to pick him up. At this moment, a large group of media reporters had encircled Benny and were bombarding him with questions. Are you here in Northampton on a mission, Mr. Quinton? Mr. Quinton, who is this old friend that you were referring to? Are you here on a private trip or for some other purposes, Mr. Quinton? Benny's scalp tingled in frustration and his brows bumped together in a scowl. But the reporters had no intentions of letting him leave unless he answered their questions. Clack! 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 At that exact moment, the neat and unified sound of footsteps was heard with a troop of soldiers came rushing in. Get out of the way! The troop swiftly split the reporters apart and stood in 2 rows, guarding Benny. At the center. Welcome, Mr. Quinton, the soldiers saluted. Benny was psyched, as that was the most respectful greeting one could ever receive. Then a war officer appeared from behind them. He had a large gold star embroidered on his shoulder, which evinced that he was a king of war. The Gonzalez family's eyes widened. Because he was none other than Azure Dragon, the Protector. Chapter 292. Is that any of your business? Levi looked up, a grim smile on his lips. No, I mean, I thought you're doing well. How did you wind up eating steamed buns on the street? Una felt an irresistible urge to laugh. In her heart, Levi was nothing but a rotten person, and it felt good to see him in a wretched state. Did your wife kick you out of the house, Mr. Garrison? Jamie asked. Ha 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 ha. Una burst out laughing. I supposed you can survive with your salary right now if you're still single, but you have a family to feed. Your wife is so brilliant, don't you think you're too far behind? It's none of your business. Get out of the way. Levi looked irritated. Next second, Una took out a stack of cash from her purse and threw them at Levi. Dinner's on me then. And she left with her assistant shortly after. Levi couldn't believe his eyes when the stack of cash fell in front of him. Did this woman just hit me in the face with money? This is absolutely insulting. A god shall never be crossed. The Gonzalez family, was it? You people have been testing my patience. Your glory days are over. There was a cold glint in Levi's eyes. The Gonzalez family and the Northampton Chamber of Commerce are finished. They must have a death wish for screwing with me. Una couldn't be any happier after insulting Levi. Did you see his face when you hit him with the money, Ms. Gonzalez? Jamie laughed. Ha ha ha. Una was rolling in the aisles. As soon as she returned home, she recounted the story of meeting Levi to the Gonzalez family, who all applauded, including Winston. Well done. Okay, enough about this. Clint, the Gonzalez family's second son, interrupted. Dad, I was just informed that the great Dr. Benny Quinton would be coming to Northampton in 3 days. Mr. Quinton is actually coming to Northampton? That is huge. Winston gasped, jolting to his feet. Winston's health had been going downhill. He had invited Benny to Northampton many times but was rejected nevertheless. Regardless of how much he had offered, whether it was $1 billion or more, Benny was unbending. Everyone knew that Benny was a man who did not care for social norms. He was the symbol of rectitude in Arudaya, who despised the bigwigs the most. No matter how much he was offered to treat a patient, his answer was always a firm no. He could treat them, however, on the condition that they registered themselves at the hospital that he worked at like any other ordinary patient. In his eyes, patients were just patients, and they were all to be treated equally. Benny had been residing in Vermont and had never left the city for decades. Hence, it was a great shock to Winston when he found out that the great doctor was actually coming to Northampton. Did someone invite Mr. Quinton over? Winston asked. Beats me. I can't imagine who in Northampton or even the whole of Arudaya could make Mr. Quinton come out of his shell. He's the god of Arudaya. Clint remarked in surprise. Winston's eyes flickered and instructed, Clint, invite Mr. Quinton over when the time comes. I want to host his stay in Northampton. Got it. How exciting. I can't believe I'm going to meet both the god of war and the great doctor of Erudaya. Winston was already looking forward to it. Not only the Gonzales family, but the Northampton Chamber of Commerce had been informed of Benny's arrival in Northampton 3 days later as well. The 4 noble families of Northampton were naturally excited to meet this great doctor. Haha, let's go pick him up at the airport 3 days later. The Protector Chapter 293. I can't believe we get to meet the 2 great gods of Erudaya. Benny Quinton has unparalleled medical skills. I want him to see what's wrong with me. In particular, the Northampton Chamber of Commerce accounted for a large proportion of the pharmaceutical business in Northampton. It would guarantee the reputation of their pharmaceutical business if they had an acquaintance in Benny. With the many benefits that they could stand to reap, their plan was simple: they must invite Mr. Quinton for tea at the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. The next day, the news that the great doctor, Benny Quinton, was coming to Northampton had spread across the entire Northampton. Only God knew who spread the word. Everyone respected Benny as God, and they couldn't wait to meet him. This only went on to prove the reputable status of Benny Quinton. Everyone in Morris Group was also discussing this matter today. After all, a great doctor like Benny was looked up to by many. However, they weren't as excited as the public, as it was the first day of the promotion of their products. And it was an absolute disaster. In addition to the news of Benny Quinton's arrival, all resources had been monopolized. Morris Group couldn't achieve the result that they wanted at all. Iris was about to sink into the depths of hopelessness. With such poor results on the first day, the second day was predictable it would only get worse. Iris had considered various ways, but to no avail. Knowing that Benny would be arriving in Northampton real soon, every publicity channel and media were reluctant to accept any other advertisements. Iris braced herself for the worst. If they couldn't sell their products in the first phase, they would lose at least 1.8 billion. How Iris wished to jump off a cliff. She had come all the way back from overseas to further her career, but only to be faced with such a gruesome reality right after she had started to see results. How was she going to face Mr. Atkinson and the mysterious boss? Thankfully, Levi hadn't come to the office for 2 days. Otherwise, he would be adding fuel to the fire. It had been 2 days since Iris last saw Levi as well. But she had no intention of seeing him again unless he apologized and got himself together. The much-anticipated 3rd day soon arrived. Yet, it was a cruel and unbearable day for Morris Group because there were still no results on the 3rd day. Iris was still mourning in her chair for the few million that went down the drain. When Levi unexpectedly showed up. "Send me a car. I need to pick up someone at the airport," Levi said. "Hey? Who are you picking up? How dare you come back, Levi?" Iris and the others made no effort to repress their fury. "Just send us the best car you got, Ms. Annabelle. Mr. Garrison and I will go together," Isaiah smiled. Unable to turn him down, Iris proceeded to arrange for the company's Lincoln limousine to send them to the airport. "Levi's a nuisance. Who the FK is he picking up at the airport, anyway?" The upper management raged. Naturally, the person Levi was going to pick up was Benny. Although Benny's status was incomparable to Levi's, he was an old-timer whom Levi admired. And since Levi had a favor to ask of him, it was only polite for him to pick up the great doctor in person. When they arrived at the airport, they were shocked at the crowd. There were just too many people. Besides the public, the Gonzales family, the Northampton Chamber of Commerce, and many other wealthy families had all gathered at the airport. Even Winston was waiting with anticipation among the crowd. When Morris Group's car arrived, a clamor broke out. "Ha ha ha, even Morris Group is here to invite Mr. Quinton? No way. Eric sneered. The Protector Chapter 294. Everyone was dismissive of Morris Group's arrival, as too many influential people were present. In their opinion, no one else was qualified to pick up Benny, but the North Hampton Chamber of Commerce and the richest man, Winston Gonzales. But there again, who else had the power to invite Benny to Northampton all the way from Vermont? Una was waiting at the side with Winston when she caught sight of Levi and Isaiah. Grandpa, look! Isn't that Levi Garrison? The Gonzales family looked over. What is he doing here? Is he trying to pick up Mr. Quinton too? Winston wondered. Dad, Clint said. Levi's a man of no scruples when it comes to achieving his goals. He must be trying to take advantage of Mr. Quinton. Winston snorted, I'm standing here. He'll never get this chance. No one is more qualified than me. True that. He probably came along for the ride, Una said. At that moment, she saw Levi walking towards them. The Gonzales family were puzzled, wondering what he was up to. Is he trying to blackmail us for having saved Sir before this? The housekeeper suggested. Una stared at Levi repulsively. If that is true, Levi sure is rotten to the core. Seeing Levi, Winston greeted with a smile, How may I help you, Levi? Levi looked intensely at Una instead and said coldly, I will not pursue this matter. If you bring your grandfather and your father to come and apologize to me within half a month. Otherwise, I swear the Gonzales family will have to pack their bags and to never step foot in Northampton ever again. Levi's statement was mind-blowing, so much so that the room fell silent in astonishment. What just happened? Am I hearing things? Did someone just provoke the Gonzales family? And right in front of Winston Gonzales at that? Even the heads of the four noble families of Northampton who were standing at the side were flabbergasted. Who the FK has the nerve to mess with Winston Gonzales? Even Jesse Nielsen wouldn't dare to say that. Winston's influence is second to none in Northampton, be it wealth or political power. Messing with him is akin to messing with the foundation of Northampton. But some insolent brat actually dared to do it. And that person was no other than Levi Garrison, who had recently got out of jail. Ha 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 ha. Winston was howling with laughter. I've never heard of anyone wanting to destroy the Gonzales family in my life. You're the first to ask for me for an apology on my knees. I'm warning you just this once. It's up to you whether you choose to listen or not, Levi said. Who the hell are you, Levi? Una snarled. So what if I hit you with money? I'm just being charitable. You're asking me to apologize to a poor brat like you? In your dreams. Levi simply ignored her, and the room fell into silence again. The Protector Chapter 295. The crowd knew that if it weren't for Benny's arrival today, Levi would be dead for sure. At this time, a large group of media reporters had arrived, holding cameras while waiting in silence. The arrival of the media reporters made it clear to everyone that Benny would be landing soon. Levi took out his phone and made a call. Azure Dragon, bring your men over. In the conference room of Everest Entertainment, Noah McCormick, the president of the company, was having a meeting with Lil Lacey, Amelia, and a few others. How's it going with Morris Group? He asked. Sir, Morris Group's new products are listed on the market today and there are 0 sales so far, his assistant replied. Noah, Lil Lacey, and a few other celebrities wore a surprised look on their faces. 0 sales? Lil Lacey asked. It can't be. Despite the impact, isn't 0 sales a little too much? Amelia questioned. The president's assistant smiled. Word has it that the Northampton Chamber of Commerce had imposed pressure on them as well. That's why Morris Group's new products had zero sales. At that, Lil Lacey put on a proud face. Morris Group? Ha! That is what you get for messing with me, Levi Garrison. I swear the entire Morris Group will down with you. Who would dare to buy their products without Everest Entertainment's publicity and support? Noah sniggered. Barely anyone will know about them. I know, right? With all their publicity channels cut off, the outside world wouldn't know about their products. Besides, the news of Mr. Quinton's arrival have taken up most of the headlines in the media recently. Morris Group doesn't stand a chance, Amelia said. Yet, Morris Group is going to lose nearly $2 billion. Noah said, his voice cracking with glee. Now, we shall wait for Morris Group to come and beg us, Lil Lacey said haughtily, crossing her arms. I'd like to wait and see if Levi will apologize to us or not. He definitely will. That's $2 billion lost there. Amelia and the others were confident that Levi would grovel at their feet. Meanwhile, everyone at Morris Group became taciturn at their depressing sales. After the products went online for 2 hours. For some reason, a few clients who had agreed to purchase their products had suddenly changed their minds at the very last minute. Iris collapsed into a heap on her chair, her face pale. What a failure! 0 sales? What do we do now? How should I explain this to the big boss? Our competitors must have taken the advantage to attack us, Ms. Annabelle. Besides, with the news of Mr. Quinton's arrival dominating all media forums, no one will pay attention to our products, Georgia, her assistant, said. Actually, there is another way, Justine, the head of the marketing department, piped up. Why don't we invite Mr. Quinton to help us with the promotion? Not only can we minimize the loss, but our products will definitely sell like hotcakes. That's a good idea, but it's not practical. Even Northampton's richest man, Winston Gonzalez, has gone to the airport to reach out to Mr. Quinton. Do you think we can still stand a chance? Despair washed over everyone at that realization. Ms. Annabelle, what we have to do now is to minimize our losses as much as possible. There is no other way. Yet, I suggest we bring Levi to Everest Entertainment to apologize. That's our last resort, a few senior executives proposed. All right, Iris sighed helplessly. I'll go and get him. He has to apologize to them. No matter what. The Protector Chapter 296. Thousands of people had gathered outside the private passageway of North Hampton International Airport, and the numbers were still increasing. Right then, the insiders of the airport sent news that the private jet Benny was on had landed and he would be coming out shortly. The Gonzalez family was so shaken that their eyes never left the private passageway. Levi, on the other hand, had lit up a cigarette and was smoking, as if he could care less about the great doctor's arrival. A few minutes later, accompanied by noisy footsteps, Benny and the cabin crew came out from the VIP passageway. Benny Quinton might be in his 80s, but he was still hale and hearty and going strong. Not only was he the leading figure in the medical field, but he was also athletic. He was skilled in basketball, swimming, sprinting and other sports. He was an all-rounder, and the healthier he was, the greater the blessings for Arudaya. Benny was extremely down-to-earth. He was only wearing casual clothes and had only brought along an assistant with him. Most importantly, he was carrying his own bag and pulling his own luggage. Could this be compared to those conceited celebrities? No. He was a national treasure. The whole nation looked up to this guy. The crowd couldn't help but stand in awe at the sight of Benny. Nice to meet you, Mr. Quinton. I'm Winston Gonzalez, a local of Northampton. Also known as the richest man of Northampton. I've been learning to uphold your spirit, Mr. Quinton, and I would like to invite you today to my humble abode for a get-together. I'm thinking of contributing to the medical community and I would like to ask for your advice. Eric and the others' jaws dropped at Winston's speech. How smart is he to invite Mr. Quinton on the pretext of contributing to the medical community? Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Gonzalez, Benny smiled. But I'm here this time just to catch up with an old friend. Benny rejected his invitation. Benny actually rejected the richest man in Northampton. Hello, Mr. Quinton. We're from the Northampton Chamber of Commerce and we would like to invite you for a get-together with us. Eric took the opportunity to introduce themselves. Half of the business of the Northampton Chamber of Commerce is related to medicine, and we're the ones who produced all the medical equipment of major hospitals in Vermont. We would love to listen to your advice, Mr. Quinton. Thank you for your contribution to the medical community in Arudaya, Benny replied brusquely and walked past the four of them. The next 10 or so influential figures had come forward to invite Benny as well. But they were all rejected. The Gonzalez family was astonished. Then who in the world invited Mr. Quinton to Northampton? Who is this old friend that he spoke of? The mass exchanged mystified glances, wondering who would be the one to pick him up. At this moment, a large group of media reporters had encircled Benny and were bombarding him with questions. Are you here in Northampton on a mission, Mr. Quinton? Mr. Quinton, who is this old friend that you were referring to? Are you here on a private trip or for some other purposes, Mr. Quinton? Benny's scalp tingled in frustration and his brows bumped together in a scowl. But the reporters had no intentions of letting him leave unless he answered their questions. Clack! 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 At that exact moment, the neat and unified sound of footsteps was heard with a troop of soldiers came rushing in. Get out of the way! The troop swiftly split the reporters apart and stood in 2 rows, guarding Benny. At the center. Welcome, Mr. Quinton, the soldiers saluted. Benny was psyched, as that was the most respectful greeting one could ever receive. Then a war officer appeared from behind them. He had a large gold star embroidered on his shoulder, which evinced that he was a king of war. The Gonzalez family's eyes widened. Because he was none other than Azure Dragon. To be continue.